This summer, the world's largest arena for sports and collectibles is back in New York City. Catch the return of Fanatics Fest from June 20th to 22nd, where you could share the floor with the biggest names in sports. That means appearances by over 500 iconic athletes and celebrities from your favorite teams, including current and former New York Knicks legends, plus live panels and podcasts, exclusive merch collabs, and trading card arena with 200 of the biggest dealers in the biz, and way, way more. Get your tickets today at fanaticfests.com and get 20% off your ticket price before May 26th with promo code Knicks Film School 20. Again, get tickets at fanaticfest.com and use promo code Knicks Film School 20 for a 20% discount. When the world's greatest athletes gather in New York City, don't miss it.
All right. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. I am Jonathan Macri. I am here with my boy DJ Zullo, where we are going to talk about the Knicks going in an 0-2 hole after losing Game 2 at Madison Square Garden to the Indiana Pacers, 114-109. I am just going to apologize at the outset of this one if I seem a little subdued after what ostensibly is every loss it's a conference finals loss at home. So, it's by definition a heartbreaking loss, especially when you had a chance somewhat to win the game at the end. Number one, for anybody watching on the YouTube, you can tell I'm not in my usual surroundings right now. Had to head out of town to handle some family stuff. So that's part of the reason for it. The other reason, and I'll just kind of be honest about this. I still 48 hours later, or I guess it was 45 and a half hours later, had not fully gotten over the emotional gut punch of Game 1. I was looking forward to tonight. I was excited about the opportunity for the Knicks to, tie up the series. I thought they would tie up the series. I thought if they did tie up the series, you go down to Indiana, you take a game. And but in terms of like the full emotional buy-in to tonight, I never got there. Obviously some exciting moments, especially as they, what was it, a 7-0 run, I guess, in the fourth quarter there to make it, I think it was 110, 107 at one point. And got it down to 1, obviously, late, which, I commend them for that, and I commend the team for showing up tonight. I mean, I'm sure there's not going to be a lot of commendations to go around for the Knicks tonight. I said myself going into tonight, I couldn't imagine having to pick myself up off the pavement and play a basketball game after what happened 2 days ago. But I'm not a professional athlete, and these guys are. And I'm going to lean pretty heavily on DJ tonight to go. Well, one, talk about what he saw as far as why they lost this game. Obviously, there's some things that are going to stand out. But also just, I'll start with this from just like a vibes perspective, Deej, because I'm a little off tonight. Where are you at right now?
Yeah, well, I had a similar lead up to this one, and I tried really hard to snap out of, I think, the same funk all Knicks fans were in after Game 1. And while it started to turn for me midday today, it never really clicked, partly because I knew that the upside of this game was pretty limited and there was all downside. And the downside was staring me in the face, and I tried to avoid that possibility.
Yeah.
And as we stand here at 10:48 Eastern time, the season is on the brink. They are down 2-0, heading to Indiana, a place where they don't play well, or at least didn't play well in last postseason. This is a brutal position to be in. I was hoping with all hope that Game 1 collapse was going to be a mere footnote in this story, but it seems pretty evident right now that that is more likely to be a major chapter in this season, because it's hard to not think back to that game.
Well,
Even in the midst of just that buzzer ended 5 minutes ago, and I'm thinking as much about game one as I am about game two. And there's a lot in game two that I think are worth discussing, and we will. But it's just I've never been in this particular headspace with this basketball team, and I've been rooting for them as long as you have, for many decades now, and
three plus,
and it feels like an unprecedented position to be in.
So you were even one step more than me, because you said you were hoping going into tonight that game one would be, and look, game one and game two could be mere footnotes. For all we know, we don't know. But as far as just, again, I always keep it a buck with everybody who watches Knicks Film School and who listens to Knicks Film School. You said you were hoping game one would be a footnote. I hadn't gotten to that point because I was convinced totally and completely that it would not be a footnote. So that's number one. And number two, and I think you always nail it. If Halliburton's, last second shot in game one of regulation, last second of regulation shot bounces an inch to the left and it doesn't go, and they win and then they lose this game in the exact fashion that they lost it. Obviously, we'd be upset. Obviously, we'd be like, damn, you had some chances to win that. But like that, correct me. I'm curious if you disagree with me on this. That to me is like a normal playoff loss. You had a 2-time All-NBA player, a 3-time All-Star have one of the 2 or 3 best games of his career. You had their All-NBA player this year, Tyrese Halliburton, make some absolutely massive buckets down the stretch. And we'll get into the defensive woes, but like the Pacers did affirmative things to win that game. And then you're looking at stuff like how many self-inflicted wounds, because that's what we always talk about here, right? What are the self-inflicted wounds? Were there self-inflicted wounds for the Knicks? Absolutely. We're gonna spend the rest of the monologue talking about them, but it was nothing for me. And again, I'm always kind of glass half full, or willing to at least see the silver lining, or maybe not silver. That's the wrong word. Benefit of the doubt. That's the term I was looking for. It was nothing for me that rose to the level of like, we know what the level is. So before I go any further, was there anything for you tonight that rose to that level?
I mean, listen, I think some of the coaching decisions rose to a pretty high level of alarm, to be honest with you.
Let's talk about it.
So listen, the starting lineup, and it's beating a dead horse, and it was a theme coming into the game, and they were bailed out a little bit with the Josh Hart foul trouble that allowed or forced Tom Thibodeau to go a different direction with more Deuce McBride in that first half. But they were outscored again 44-31 in 16 on just under 17 minutes. Yep. Now, listen, I put that as a slightly below this than my next concern, because I'm almost baking that into the pie at this point, that he's going to play the starters and they're going to struggle, and you hope you make up those minutes somewhere else, which is a insane position to be in as a fan and as someone who analyzes his team. But that this is where we are. The other issue I had, and I saw it in the first half, and I tweeted about it, and it felt like it was that double big lineup, and I saw a little bit in game one. It was teetering to the point where it wasn't going to be able to stay on the floor against this particular offense. And it wasn't damaging to the point of pulling the plug necessarily in the first half, but it was very concerning how often the Pacers were able to generate really good, clean looks when Robinson and when Towns were on the floor together, because their movement is pristine. The screening actions off ball. It is a lot for Mitch and Towns to have to communicate all those switches that are necessities to guard this team. And then you saw the fourth quarter. It was an abomination. They were outscored 13-4 to start the fourth quarter.
That's why they lost the game.
That's where they lost the game. And Towns was on the floor and Mitch was on the floor. And I thought at times Mitchell Robinson was the best I'd ever seen him play in this game. But you cannot play these two bigs together against this particular offense. And to me, a responsible, a clear-headed, and a Any coach should see that and be able to pull the plug before you get put into a 9-point hole in the fourth quarter. To me, it was an unconscionable decision to keep them out there.
Okay.
To me, it shouldn't have been they shouldn't have been out there to begin with in that fourth quarter. And it was, I saw it coming a mile away, and I know his decision making. I know what he's trying to do. You want Towns on the floor, but you just are so petrified of what he is defensively as your number one, as your center, and trying to switch on to Halliburton and the issues that provides. I get all that. This is not the easiest decision, but that group, that pairing cannot guard this Pacer team. That's just the way it is. I know they play 7.5 guys, and you're going to have weird lineup configurations based on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where so again, I'm always trying to at least think of like, all right, well, what, because you see the results, and again, you mentioned the word insane. Definition of insanity is watching the same thing over and over again, expecting a change. That is the starting lineup for the New York Knicks at this point is a textbook definition of insane. It has been since January. Yep. We've been having this conversation. We are now, this, I don't know if the series is going to make it to June. Probably not at this rate. But it has not gotten better. And we are talking about, it's been 5 months essentially. And to your point about the double big lineup, it makes complete sense. Although it is at least worth pointing out that during the 14-0 run in the fourth quarter of the last game, the double bigs were out there. Now, we could go back and analyze that versus. I agree with you on balance. It doesn't make sense because of how the Pacers run offense, and they were pretty rattled during that stretch. I'm just wondering what other options are out there. The obvious option that we have talked about for the starting lineup for 5 months is get Josh Hart out of there. I would think because you're trying to preserve Mitch to a certain extent, and you don't want the two bigs out there. It's to put Deuce McBride out there, which I think is, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he goes in that direction for Game 3. Maybe he doesn't. And I do not think tonight was a particularly good Josh Hart game. I think Tom Thibodeau tacitly admitted tonight was not a great Josh Hart game. When he played Josh Hart, I'm fairly certain fewer minutes than in any game of consequence. I mean, how many? I'm looking at
28 minutes. Yeah, under 30 for him.
Yeah. So they mentioned on the broadcast he was in foul trouble in the first half. Like, no, this was so clearly Tibbs is kind of on board with what you're saying in terms of Hart, at least maybe not being the biggest part of the solution. And to Deuce McBride, +6 in 25 minutes. And then you mentioned Mitch, +6 in he was 29 minutes because he played a whole lot of time in the first half. So I could get with you there, and I could get with everybody else there, because at this point it's like, even if Josh Hart espouses all of the things that you as a coach believe your team needs to be and needs to do, you're not going to sit OG Anunoby, you're not going to sit Mikal Bridges, you're not going to sit Karl Anthony Towns, and you're not going to sit Jalen Brunson. So it's like, what else are you going to do? And you're down 0-2 heading on the road, Yeah,
and when we talked about this on this program, how Josh Hart has played well despite his not necessarily great impact on the starting lineup. Well, tonight there were times where, and this is one of the first times in a long time I could watch a game and just not feel his presence.
Yeah,
it wasn't that he was playing bad. He didn't have any of those of the things that make him great when he's going well. And a lot of that is Nembhard. And this is where, you have to sort of balance real criticisms of what we're saying about the Knicks with how the Pacers are playing. I mean, Nembhard is as good as it gets playing in these gaps, and Josh Hart is just a license to roam free, and Nembhard is taking full advantage of that. He's swallowing up drives. He is in every driving gap, and it's making the Josh Hart presence really untenable at this point against a lot of teams, against Boston for a lot of that series, against Detroit. It wasn't this level of a problem because of the way the Celtics and the way the Pistons shifted their defense. At times, the Celtics really took advantage of that, but the Knicks were able to find cracks in that with Josh Hart's speed, his ability to get up and down the court. The Pacers are getting back on defense, and they are really doing a good job of using the Hart position on the court to just take away other driving gaps for other Knicks players, and it's making it really difficult. And I don't know if there is any other option than to make a change there. Would that change alter the course of the series? I mean, you're in an 0-2 hole. I don't know, but I think you have to try something.
So I think the other problem is and I think the thing that you really learned from Tibbs tonight, and I wrote about this a little bit for today's newsletter. You think that it's the Towns Mitchell Robinson pairing that is untenable. I don't think you could have Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns on the floor together against this team. And the fact that those two played, I mean, I'll pull it up on Pivot Fade right now, but I have to think that this game, again, non-foul trouble game, this had to be the fewest minutes that those guys played together in a significant game. Hold on, I got it right here. So you want to take a guess at what Brunson and Towns played together?
16 minutes.
18 minutes and 40 seconds, and they were outscored, but the team was outscored by 11 points in those minutes. Just above that, in terms of the two-man pairings, Jalen Brunson and Mitchell Robinson played 20 minutes and 18 seconds together. They outscored the Pacers by 15 points in that time. So I think if you want to summarize, and it's that doesn't summarize the series right there, because again, Karl-Anthony Towns, as an offensive player at least, has not been bad in the series. He was brilliant in game one. He was okay in game two. He was fine. He was not the problem on his presence helped them on offense.
Yep.
He was not the most efficient game. But
this was the quandary coming in the year, the series for me was that I thought he was going to play well offensively, and would he play well enough to counter what was likely to be a really rough defensive series for him? And he has not struck the balance well enough for the Knicks to be in this series. And that's ultimately the problem. And then to your point, you pair it with Brunson, and then you're at such a defensive disadvantage. And then the last thing is, with the Pacers playing so high on those Brunson screen and rolls, with Cat popping, the distance to have to cover that Cat pop is much more, it's easier to get to because you're playing higher up the floor if you're a defensive big, versus Mitch rolling to the rim. It's much easier for him to get past and behind that higher coverage and impact the game that way. So in a weird way, Mitchell Robinson, his roll gravity is actually might be more important, plus his screening ability, than the Towns pop game, which to me is not. He's gotten some threes off, but it really hasn't come in that way.
I've been saying it for a while now. Jalen Brunson is a better player when he's on the floor with Mitchell Robinson than when he's on the floor with Karl-Anthony Towns. And if you were not yet at the point where we're getting into offseason discussion, but I think at this point that probably needs to be number one, with like a chasm between whatever is number two and that. Because if you're going to build an NBA championship team and your two best players, don't make each other better. And I just don't know how you could watch Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson right now and say, oh, those two guys are really bringing out the best in each other on offense, because you can't. And then on the other side of the court, you say, all right, well, against the tippy top offenses in the NBA, you really have a lot of and look, give Towns credit. He held up in the Boston series because he was able to hold up more on the Tatum switches and some of those other switches. Same thing with Brunson. I think in this, and Towns has done some nice work on switches at points in time over these two games. Whatever was going on there in the beginning of the third quarter was painful to watch.
Yep.
And it's not all on Towns. It's not all on Towns. And it's not all on Brunson. It's not all on any one person. But as a collective unit, it does not seem like those two players together. I mean, I cited in game one, I mentioned, they had the highest defensive rating, like not good high, like bad high, on the team. Tonight, the defensive rating of Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns together. You want to take a guess as to what it was? It improved significantly from game one.
Okay, so 135 maybe.
That'd be 141.2. In game one, it was 162.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it was 162 in game one, 141.2 in this game. Brunson and Mitchell Robinson, by the way, a defensive rating in this game, again, in 20 minutes and 18 seconds. So you're talking small sample size, 102.6. So again, we have evidence that Jalen Brunson can survive defensively in this series. And I think we actually have evidence that Karl-Anthony Towns could survive defensively in this series. I don't know that we have evidence that those two could survive together. So that's the other big issue with the starting lineup, and that's why I wonder, has he, look, should that prevent him from pulling the plug on it? It should not, because again, right now it's just not working. You mentioned the double big part of it, and then you get into the substitutions and things, and it's like, again, you're dealing with essentially 7.5 players. I did not think Payne gave you anything tonight.
I mean, it should be 7. If we're going to get those 9 minutes from Cameron Payne, it's not. I mean, look, you're getting Brunson a blow there, so I guess it's worth something. But he's been, other than a couple threes he made in game one, he's been an absolute mess in this series.
Yeah, no, it hasn't gone well. Hey, look, they lost this game by 5 points. Cameron Payne, -9 in 9 minutes.
Yeah.
0 for 3 from the field. 1 turnover.
Yeah, it's so frustrating because you watch Brunson, for the most part, he's able to get to every shot he wants, and he's making most of them. It's I wouldn't say it's easy for him, because it's never really easy the way his brand of offense, but you can see that he is able to get to his spots in a pretty comfortable way. And listen, his scoring has been lights out. He's doing the things. If you look at this as at the box score, he's performing, maybe exceeding in terms of the points per game in this series what you would expect, but it's the whole package. It's the turnovers. I don't know how many he had, but the team feels like they're a little out of sorts with the ball. It's certainly giving up more second points off turnovers than you would come accustomed to seeing from this team, from a Tom Thibodeau team, which usually prides itself on taking care of the ball and limiting points off turnovers. That's been a problem. But just back to you mentioned the defense with Towns and Brunson. In the fourth quarter, it was Towns switches. You get the isolation. The Pacers are like, listen, we like that matchup, but we like even better is Brunson in the action. Let's get Brunson's man up. So it's the second action that they're getting to, where in the Boston series, it was just the single action, get the isolation, and then try and make something out of it. The Pacers, it's the second action, which is always going to be tougher, because now you're screening a worse defender. And then 2, Halliburton does a really good job of getting off the ball when he sees gaps, because the Knicks are going to load up and help when they have those isolations. It's the same MO as what they did against Boston. Boston couldn't take advantage of it with the pass. Halliburton a few times would just get off it and create driving gaps, create closeouts for his role players. And overall, it's just a harder puzzle to crack against this team. Switching is the answer in terms of or the best solution here.
The best of several bad solutions.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the best of a lot of bad solutions, but it just comes with a lot more landmines because of how well oiled this offense is in the half court. And 2-0, we've seen crazier things happen, and the Knicks have not been destroyed in this series. I think they've been, they've probably on a per minute basis, they've been pretty even. Maybe Knicks a little ahead in terms of basing this on
that's the crazy thing, Deej, is if you look at this, if we're listing a laundry list of complaints that if someone had not watched this series and they just listened to us talk for the last 20 minutes, they'd be like, oh, so I guess the Knicks, lost by, 20 points in each of these first 2 games, as opposed to had the most literally once in a generation style loss, 9-point lead in the final minute. And then Jalen Brunson having a chance to tie the game with whatever it was, 10 seconds left, 12 seconds left, So and what are they doing well? Look, like you said, Brunson has been brilliant. Mikal Bridges really got his shot going. I thought his offense in the second half of this game, I don't know that I would have gushed about it to the point that's it seemed like Stan Van Gundy or Reggie Miller, whoever it was that was gushing about it. I mean, 20 points on 18 shots is,
Yeah, I mean, it's tough shots. That's the thing about him. It's the efficiency will never jump off the page because he's making a lot of tough contested mid-range shots.
Yeah. And Towns,
Well,
I mean, he was a minus 20 for the game.
Well, I mean, I love the first half defense, to be honest with you. I thought it was really excellent.
Well, that's what I was going to get to.
Yeah.
For me, and I understand your point about the double big lineup. And yeah, Mikal Bridges 7 for 11 from 2 in the second half. It was a big time second half performance from him. This was going to be the Mitchell Robinson game for me if they won it.
He was incredible.
It was going to be the Mitchell Robinson game. He was to me, that first half from him was the best half. I mean, I know he's played a lot of great halves here in these playoffs. To me, it was the most positively impactful half that he's ever played as a Knick. It was absolutely incredible to watch, and I was really happy for him that he did that.
Yeah, and it was the Mitchell Robinson piece of it. I thought they did a really good job of having higher pickup points in this game. They weren't allowing Halliburton to get these like head of steam pick and roll situations where his momentum is already carrying him to the paint. That was really nice. The intensity, the rotations, everything seemed really locked in the first half. And the question against this Pacer team always is going to be like, especially with the team with a 7-man rotation, is like, how do you sustain that over 48 minutes? And then obviously we got our answer. But yeah, Mitchell Robinson in the first half played, I think, 16 minutes straight at one point. Like he came in the game and literally didn't leave until I think late in the second quarter.
It was under 2 minutes to go that he finally sat.
Yeah. And
didn't feel like you could sit him.
Didn't feel like and it was an extended run. And you wonder if that played a part in maybe his lack of impact, relatively speaking, in the second half. Now, I will say, listen, Tony Bradley is not going to get mentioned on many post-game shows. I actually thought like him coming in the game by Carlisle was a nice little button he push just to have a body that could withstand the Mitchell Robinson force under the rim. And maybe that played a part in Mitch being a little less jumpy and a little less like physical in that second half. He played a lot of minutes and he was flying all over the court. So I'm not in any way second guessing the decision to play him in the first half, because to your point, you couldn't take him off the court, nor am I saying that he didn't give it his all in the second half. I just thought he was extremely exhausted for a lot of that second half because of the effort, which, listen, he always played hard. He has gotten into a insane level. Like if he was a 9 out of 10, like he's a 10 out of 10 in terms of the effort, every possession, and the amount of ground he's covering now compared to what he was doing, 2 years ago. It's a different player, you could do so many more things with him. He's truly a game-changing defensive player right now, to the point where he's routinely the best player on the floor when he's playing in these series, which is incredible. And you have that going forward, and he's that good right now. If he can make his free throws, he'd be even better. But we can't have everything in life, clearly. But it's been a wonderful postseason run for him. Thankfully, that ankle thing looks like it's a tweak and nothing serious. We're hoping that he tweaked his left ankle late in that in the game, seemed to walk it off. But he's been incredible, and I think you tweeted how happy you are for him. I echo that. He's a incredibly hard worker. He's tried really hard to get him back in shape, and have a run here without any injuries would be just wonderful to see for him.
But to your point about him being tired, I thought subtly maybe the biggest shot of the game, because the Pacers went out and they went on their run. They started the fourth quarter very well. The Knicks started to make a dent. They got it to 100-97. And then it's Miles Turner from the corner. Now that shot came with with 4 minutes and 25 seconds to go. So you're saying there was a lot of basketball that happened after that.
It felt big.
I felt so huge in the moment. And whereas we know peak energy Mitchell Robinson can dip down and offer the help defense there and then get back out.
Yeah.
That you could tell he couldn't get back out there. But if we're going to stick on that three for a moment, and then that three got made, and then the next time down the floor, Tyrese Halliburton, a 25-footer. both of those plays were generated because of a Jalen Brunson switch on to Tyrese Halliburton, because Mitch had to help when Jalen was down, when
Correct.
Halliburton took him into the lane, and then Brunson got the switch, and then
he
just
shot over him.
And he played over, and he shot right over him. Why? Because Brunson felt like he couldn't play up because of what happened the previous possession.
Yeah,
again, we get back to the same kind of concepts here.
Yeah, and overall, I thought Brunson defended well.
He did, and I'm not trying to kill Brunson, but it's
I know
just,
you're not. Yeah,
it is what it is at this point.
It is right, and that was the play I referenced where it was initially Towns, and then they got Brunson involved because Halliburton just feels like he can, at worst, he could shoot over the top of him, and with Towns, he's more of a deterrent, and Towns has really done good. He's done a good job generally of keeping him in front. I thought his isolation possessions against Siakam have been really good.
Yeah, I agree.
We probably should mention the Siakam game tonight. I mean, it was
I mentioned it at the top, and it deserves mentioning again. 39 points on 23 shots, 3 of 5 from deep. And then the other thing that I'll just mention, Tyrese Halliburton, 14 points on 16 shots. He did not have his best shooting game overall. Made the threes when it counted. Obviously, 11 assists to 1 turnover. Brunson also 11 assists, 3 turnovers, though 2 of those came early when they got off to that. Again, just there's just something about the starting 5 that's just off. You want to turn somewhere else for this game and why the Knicks lost? Pacers 13 of 30 from 3, Knicks 11 of 32. 34% versus 44% or 43%. Sometimes it comes down to making shots, and it seemed like every time the Pacers, that's the thing, is we're doing a lot of we're being very critical of the Knicks defense. They are dealing with an untenable situation in terms of the personnel. Again, for my 2 cents, I think given the personnel, I really don't have a huge issue with how they defended in this game. If you accept the fact that Karl-Anthony Towns is not a good defender, Jalen Brunson is not a good defender,
Yeah.
Because in the Pacers, it just felt like every time they had an opportunity, they took advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, and it was probably less damaging in a way. Just watching it felt like they didn't take as much of an advantage as they did in game 1 as a whole. But yeah, they were able to get to some really good stuff pretty easily against this Knicks defense. And the way you're talking, it does, I know we're in the middle in the throes of a series here, but it does sort of beg some pretty profound questions about the makeup of this team.
We don't need to do that yet. They're down 2-0. They're not down 4-0. We'll have a lot of time, regardless of how the rest of the series goes. We'll have a lot of time to talk about big picture stuff. They're in this series still.
I will say, if Mark, if you get anything post game about any quotes from Towns specifically, maybe Hart as well, about lack of minutes or time spent on the bench. I'm just curious to see how more Towns responds to, I think he should get some tough questions regarding, maybe his defensive performance, maybe the fact that Tibbs had him on the bench for a pretty extended period in that second half. He has to just be so good offensively. Again, he met the mark in game 1, didn't meet it in game 2. But he's got to be an unguardable force to make up for the fact that he wasn't in game 2, but he's got to be that way to counter what is just a real struggle for him defensively. And even in the fourth quarter, and a lot of these didn't end up with points for the Pacers, but they couldn't get a defensive rebound for 3 straight possessions when Towns came back in for Mitch. And there was I counted 3 of them that the Pacers literally didn't score on them, but it was a reminder again of Towns, who was such a great defensive rebounder for most of the year. That specific skill has fallen off in the second half in the playoffs.
5 and 28 minutes. 5 and 28 minutes. We could go on and on. Have any of the Knicks so-called premium defenders, have any of them really stood out for you in a significant way, other than Mitch?
Mitch is the only one. I mean, Anunoby's been fine, but Siakam is a really tough matchup for him.
OG Anunoby's not getting paid $42.5 million a year to be fine on defense when he is giving you. I mean, tonight offensively, he was again, he was okay. It was all right.
Maybe like Deuce has been really good defensively for the most part when he's not, getting, exposed with the lack of verticality, but generally he's a positive. But if you're talking about the three wings, which is really what we're talking about here, not one of them has been really good defensively. They've been okay. I think Bridges was better tonight than he was in game one. Hart just feels like he's not really involved in the action, and off ball, it feels like he's not being exposed in other than that back cut in game one. I feel like he's been fine, but not like dominating in that area. And then Anunoby, like Siakam got him a lot in game one of last year's matchup, like 3 or 4 post-ups where it's a tough, he's got the size advantage, and Anunoby just is not a great post defender. So it's a tough ask for him, but Halliburton is getting to his spots generally. A lot of it is against the switches. So you got to take some, there's a caveat there. Like Bridges is not involved in all those actions, but he has not been awesome. So that's why you brought these guys in. They met that mark in the Boston series. They have not met it in this series, but it's also just in a lot of ways a tougher team for them to really show out because of how they play.
It's wild, but it's true. It's true. And look, I don't think we need to guard against any Knicks fans out there having the proper amount of respect for the Indiana Pacers at this point. And they absolutely deserve it, which is the last thing that I will say. They have come in and they played 2 brilliant basketball games at what is supposed to be a really tough place to play. And you want to talk about a group of guys who are just not even remotely phased by this environment.
It doesn't show at all. And game 3 is going to happen, and I will not be shocked if the Knicks play a great basketball game and win it. I don't think you'll be shocked at that.
No, I mean, nothing this team would do at this point would shock, but that's been the case for a long time.
Yeah. So, but we'll get back to the drawing board in terms of like trying to analyze this. And there's going to be a lot of great things the Knicks have done, but the question at this point, 2 games in, 96 minutes, are there just too many solutions for the Pacers? Too many good solutions for the Pacers and not enough good ones for the Knicks. And that's how series end quickly, where a team just has the overwhelming edge in the solutions they have versus their opponent. And it feels like we're headed in that direction. That doesn't mean we're going to continue heading in that direction, but through 2 games, I don't think you can come up with a counter to that would be fact.
If you are going to have essentially a 7-man rotation, you better have a lot of solutions in that 7-man rotation. The Pacers played 11 guys tonight,
Tony Bradley played minutes for them,
and I think that really does speak volumes about the difference between these 2 teams, because the Pacers could just all right, we need this, we got this. We need that, we got that, and the Knicks were supposed to be this top-heavy team, but the top-heaviness was supposed to be solid. And we thought that we thought that would get exposed in the last series, and it turns out maybe we were a series early. And yet, I want to at least end by acknowledging this. If it was the craziest comeback in the world away, and again, you were kind of right there down the stretch of this one, and it's a different conversation. Okay, Mark just put this in the chat. Tom Thibodeau explains why Karl-Anthony Towns didn't play much in the 4th quarter. We just got in a hole. That group that was in there gave us a chance, searching for a way to win. Yeah, he's not going to – Tibbs isn't going to give anything. The only thing you're going to get is maybe Towns saying something of note, but I have a funny feeling he's not. All right, Deej, anything else before we move on to the rest of the postgame show?
They didn't lean into it a ton, but the Bridges screening for Brunson in the moment watching tonight felt like they were getting good stuff out of it. I think he's the 2nd best screener on the team after Robinson. It's not going to be, and generally speaking, the Knicks have struggled screening the Pacers. If it's not Robinson, they are having a lot of trouble getting Brunson any separation.
None.
With Bridges, he's not gaining Brunson separation, but what he's doing is he's setting the screen low and he's slipping out into space. At least there, you're getting a Bridges semi-efficient look. It's just something they can maybe tap into a little bit more, but they do have to screen better, and that has to fall under the Towns category. Like, one way he can be impactful when he's not scoring and not defending is just setting meaningful screens, and he's not doing that right now. Neesmith is going through them. Nemhard is going through them. It's only Robinson setting screens that they're feeling right now, and you can't. We saw this last year when Hartenstein stepped up his screening ability. Brunson went off in the playoffs. He's really not all the way dependent on screens, but he does need that initial separation for him to get momentum towards the paint. And that has to be, of all the things offensively that they can maybe improve upon and try to prioritize, screening for Brunson. And that's going to have to be a Towns thing. It's not a great skill of his, but he may have to just grind that out in game 3.
And I understand why you're talking about the offense, and I think it's because you feel like the series, it's like, is it fit? Like, I just looked it up. They had a 123 offensive rating with Brunson on the floor tonight in 39 minutes. You know, with Mitchell Robinson on the floor tonight, they had a 128.6 offensive rating in 29 minutes and 20 seconds. It is unfair to ask them, like, okay, Brunson, for the minutes you're out there, no, 123 offensive rating, that's not good enough. It's not fair. But against this Pacer team, where you that's probably the only way you're going to get the victory.
And I thought the Knicks defended well in the first half, and the Pacers still ended up with a 127 offensive rating for the game.
Yeah, listen, it's the Siakam game. It's the Siakam. Yeah. They got the Neesmith game, and now they have the Siakam game. And that's really all there is to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Sorry, I got control.
No, you're fine. Listen, I just they'll give it everything they have in game 3. Who knows if it'll be enough, but we know. I think we'll watch game 3 in the fourth quarter, and we'll be watching a basketball game that can go either way.
Yeah, so. No, I would. Okay, I mean, look, again, nothing. Very few things this team would do would shock me. If they came out in game 3 and they like really laid an egg, and it was not a competitive game down the stretch, that would shock me. And it would, how do I put this? It would confirm that certain changes need to be made in the offseason. Yeah. I mean, whether you're talking about the coach or the roster or whatever, but that would be a very significant confirmation. And maybe we don't need that confirmation. Maybe we already have the confirmation. I don't know. Well, let's see how the rest of the series goes.
Yep.
Okay. On that note, got some business to attend to here. I think who's popping up here? Oh, yes. Or maybe I'll do it. I don't know. Or maybe GMAC's doing it. I don't know. Hey, there he is.
I don't have a role when there's nothing fun to talk about. So shout out to the fine folks over at Fanatic Sportsbook for presenting this show tonight and for helping us bet and sweat like we normally do. Fellas, look at the picks we made before the game.
I see them.
John, what are they? Go ahead and read them.
Well, I took Jalen Brunson 31 or more points because I knew that was the one kind of given in this series at minus 110, and I hit on that. So congratulations to me. Less good was Mensa taking Karl Anthony Towns 25 or more points at plus 100. That unfortunately did not hit. And then Andrew J. Claudio took 226 or more.
I needed one more bucket.
Total points.
That's a tough one.
That's a bad beat.
Can I explain even more so what is bugging me?
What?
And I just got to go up my gut next time. The last 2 betting and sweating shows I've done, the pregame show, it's been the easiest bet in the world, and I've said it because we have to make an op bet, DJ. We have to put for 2 points. You have to pick a bet that's themed on the Pacers. I've been staring at this Fanatic Sportsbook line from TJ McConnell, total points at 6.5. Wondering why it's so low. We have now played 9 games against TJ McConnell and the Indiana Pacers in the playoffs. He has hit this number after hitting it tonight 8 of the 9 games. And the only game he didn't hit was game 7. And it's because every one of his teammates was hitting shots instead.
That's right.
So my bet, if I end up in the app on game 3 will be TJ McConnell over 6.5 points. It's still good value. It's not like a 1-2, like it was minus 135 before the game. It's at least good for betting and sweating. It's at least good to put in a parlay. That's my mini rant for betting and sweating as we go 1-2. As we go 1-2 tonight in betting and sweating. As always, earn up to 10% back on your bets. Win or lose, use fan cash on team gear on fanatics.com or bonus bets and profit boosts in the Fanatics Sportsbook app. Stay tuned for exclusive offers all season long. And we are excited to tell you that you can get your tickets today to Fanatics Fest at fanaticsfest.com and get 20%.
We'll be there.
We will be there. We will have content being created there. We will have a station there. I believe you can meet and hang out with all your KFS friends and all these amazing athletes and card collectors and all these people that you see from the intro in the show, intro to this show. You get 20% off your ticket price before May 26th with promo code Knicks Film School 20. That's 4 days from now. That's Knicks Film School 20. There is a link in the description of this episode. There is a link that both on YouTube and on the podcast description of this episode. So shout out to the fine folks over at Fanatics Sportsbook. We hope to see you at Fanatics Fest. Okay, we have 2 more bits of business to get to with them over at Fanatics Sportsbook. We also have a winner to our Game 2 fan cash giveaway to MBH2697. Congratulations to you. Thank you for sending out the link, sending out your pregame betting slip. This was a parlay that was plus 6,000, and it was a go for broke parlay. It didn't win, but you did get $100 in fan cash. So even though your bet didn't cash, at least you did. And then, fellas, DJ, you can stay up here because Fanatics also wants to send in our first super chat tonight. John, would you like to read it?
Sure. This is $138 in fan cash. Here's 100.
It's meant to be $100. The YouTube had a mix up in their algorithm and it put $138 for some reason. I don't know. It's supposed to be $100.
It happens. I'll take 100. I'll take 138. Here's $100 in fan cash to buy the dip. Bonus bet on the Knicks to win $400. Might never get better odds than this. So
I'm going to put it on the screen. The Knicks for the rest of the series to win the series are now plus 400.
Plus 400.
How do you feel?
I'll sleep on that one.
They're giving you $100 to put it up, put on this.
I mean, if they're giving me $100 to put on it, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, $100 in fan cash that you can put toward this bet.
Yeah, sure. Look. Let me try to before we get to what I'm sure is going to be a spirited bunch of super chats. Let me say this: and I know the Celtics blew the Knicks out in Game 3, and then the Knicks came back and played their best game. If I'm the Pacers, I'm not. Look, Game 3 is not like a must-win game. That's crazy talk for them. But I would not fuck around here. If I was Indiana, I would stomp the hell on this team's throat because I'll be curious if the Knicks do get down early. I'd be very curious how they respond. If they don't, and they're in this game and they actually win this Game 3, Game 4 becomes, pretty pressure packed for what it's worth.
Yep.
But one game at a time.
Benji, that's a Freudian slip. DJ, did you see did you read the McHale quote that you put into the private chat yet?
You want to read it?
I did not read it. No.
Okay, so read it if you want to read it out loud. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Bridges, he was one of the players that did the post-game presser. So they asked him about the starting lineup struggles. His quote: "I am not sure, man. Maybe a defensive thing. Got to go back and watch. Got to talk to each other off the jump. Be physical off the jump. Think maybe we're playing a little too soft. Beginning of halves. Not sure."
You know what's tough to do is go out and play well when you're 5 guys who may not all like each other very much, at least as basketball players. And again, it's we'll see how the rest of this playoff series goes.
What do you got, DJ? What do you got?
Well, the got to talk to each other part. I mean, he's saying a lot of things because he has to say something because you're in a position. It's like a really uncomfortable spot. Like he's not going to next question and he's going to say words and he's probably going to try to come up with something that just sounds like the thing you should say at that juncture. But he has mentioned that part of communicating about not talking. Like that has been, if you go back to all Bridges' quotes this year, going back to like January about the struggles defensively, he always brings up communication and talking. And this has been, of all the things this team struggles at the most, or the thing that tends to rear its ugly head more often than not, it's the fact that they don't communicate well enough on defense. And Bridges has been telling us this, and maybe he's a culprit of that, I don't know, but he's been saying this for months now. To me, it's like when I coach my 10-year-olds, I can get them to communicate. Like that is like, if I can't do that, then I am just like, I am the worst like rec coach in the league. Like that is the bare minimum of things I can figure out to get my 10-year-olds to do. I can't understand how this starting lineup, after playing an unconscionable amount of minutes together this season, cannot figure out how to talk to each other.
How many, what are the contracts that your 10-year-olds are on?
Oh, it's day to day. You know, I can.
No maxes, no super maxes.
No maxes.
Did you trade 5 picks for 5 fourth graders for one of those 10-year-olds?
No, Johnny's got a soccer tournament. He's out. It's like
okay.
it's
gotcha. Did your best 10-year-old go to like preschool with one of the other 10-year-olds, and he made sure that they have to?
There's a few buddies that I had to separate. They're in different groupings in our lineup. They're I don't want to play favorites. Certainly.
Gotcha.
It's funny how often egos.
Is your assistant coach one of the 10-year-old sons, or like one of the 10-year-old fathers? I mean,
yes.
Oh wow, there you go. It is
because all our sons are playing. So yes, that's part of the deal.
There you go.
I will just say I get what you're joking about with the Brunson thing. I don't think the communication thing is a Jalen Brunson issue, but that's just me.
Oh, I don't think so.
Neither us either. I was making jokes. Again, I'm the injector of fun, and there's nothing.
You are
fun
the injector
right now, John. So
it is very funny to me. Funny as me, like in a way, like not haha, like I want to cry funny. That when you put all these guys to get on the floor together in different other combinations, it's just so funny how the communication all of a sudden gets better. And yet when that group, those 5 guys are on the floor together, it's as if they forget how to play basketball. And I got to tell you, I don't think that's an X's and O's thing.
It's not. And it's on all of them, but your center in most defensive units is the communicator. Like he's the one that can see everything because of his positioning on the floor, and it's his job to communicate to the person guarding the ball. I know there's communications off ball with switching that are going to have to be ironed out as well, and those have not been nailed or executed in a way that has been consistent this year. But if you're going to say who has the biggest role in the communication aspect of any basketball team, it's the center. That's any group. So that's where I'm looking first, because when Mitch is out there, and to your point about like different configurations, those things tend to dissolve and go away. That's not a coincidence.
No, it's not. Okay. On that note, anything else before we get to super chats?
Nope.
No.
Okay. Deej, I'm gonna bid you adieu, man. Thank you for doing this. I know this it was not a fun one.
Yeah. You don't get all fun ones. Not part of the deal. I'll talk to you.
See you later, Deej.
See you, man.
All right. On that note, hey, at least it's Friday. Got a long weekend ahead, so that's something, right? Okay. We got Mark on the 1s and 2s tonight. So Mark, whenever you're ready, fire it up. We got apparently a handful of super chats from before the game. Nick Head has been starting us off with this. It was working for a while. Hasn't worked as much last 2 games, but that's okay. Let's go Knicks. Thank you, Nick Head, for starting us off as always. Rafa, Tibbs is a terrorist. The starting 5 is terrible. Yeah, well, I mean, you have a point, Rafa. You have a point. It's not a good starting 5. Nick Head with another one. Mitch. These are from either before or during the game. Yes, Mitch. Mitch was, again, I hope there's some praise for Mitch tonight. That dude, it is really impossible to put words because the stats don't say it. It was truly his first half is why you watch basketball. Not only from the performance that he gave, but also, knowing that he's the longest tenured Knick and he's been here through obviously some losing and he's dealt with a lot of injuries and the whole thing. Really, really nice performance from him. Rafa, we are pissing away a chance to play in the finals because Tibbs is too stupid and stubborn to change the starting five. Fireable offense. Disgusting. Well, listen, Rafa, you might get your wish. I said, me and Fred Katz talked before the series, and I asked him if Tibbs' job was safe, and, he basically was like, unless they get, like, completely lambasted and, like, get swept out in, like, 4 games, like, yeah, his job is safe. Well, they're halfway to getting swept out, so you might get your wish, Rafa. You might get your wish. And then JD, the switch everything defense scheme is ludicrous. Well, what's the alternative? The alternative is there's only 2 alternatives. There's drop, which I don't know that anybody wants a whole lot more of that, or it's hedge and recover. Now, we saw Brunson do a little bit of hedge and recover, selectively at times. I thought they execute that well. Trying to have Towns in a hedge and recover scheme against this point guard. Don't listen to me. Listen to Caitlin Cooper, who talked about it on the X's and O's pod. She's like, that would be the worst option. He will tear that apart because he's one of the best point guards in basketball. You want to talk to me about when Mitch is in the game and he's involved in the action, maybe you're not switching it as much. Okay. But then if you do switch it, it's Mitch on the switch, which I think all of us feel pretty comfortable with. So again, JD, I understand it's frustrating and I'm frustrated and we're all frustrated. I think when it comes down to the defense against this particular Pacer team, it is a personnel issue more than it is a scheme issue. That would be my 2 cents. All right. Thanks, JD. All right. Now, these are, I believe, from after the game. Alfie Greco, season's over just like that. Allow them to get momentum in the third by sticking with the starting 5. Cat, a traffic cone on defense. Sickening. Yeah, I know. And I want to apologize again that I don't have the verve of someone who is talking about a team that has engendered so much enthusiasm and so much love and so much everything, all kinds of great thoughts that is now in the span of, a little bit more than 48 hours, 2 losses away from going home. And it's like, wait a minute, weren't we just putting up freaking street signs with players' names on them? Weren't we just the fan base that was, crying after, post game, speaking for myself. And now it's like, wait a minute, now we're here. We just lost 2 home games. What's going on? So, that's, again, I don't blame you for being sickened, as you say, Alfie. Josh Levin, what's going on, Josh? Unforgivable. Fuck them for doing this to us. Well, it's angry. We deserve better. They deserve nothing. The players and the coach alike. I hit my breaking point. See you in October, hopefully with a bunch of new faces. Josh, look, I totally hear the frustration. It is not what you wanted in your first 2 games. We deserve better part. I think for me, that was my sentiment after game 1, because again, they just didn't take the last several minutes of the game seriously enough. And I thought that was an egregious offense. Tonight, I don't know that I am coming away with the same sort of feelings that you are. I do think this roster needs changes. I'm not angry or mad at any one player on the roster. I'm not angry or mad at the coach. It's it's an unfortunate situation, especially since, game 1 shouldn't have gone the way it went. And I just think the conversation tonight, even if this game played out exactly as it did, I just think we'd be having a different conversation, but we're not having that conversation. We're having this conversation instead. So thanks, Josh. JD, pretty evident Tibbs is just going to ride with his guys until he gets fired. Hart should not have been back in the game, and Mitch should have started. Well, maybe we'll get a change for game 3. I don't know. Again, not a great Josh Hart game by any stretch of the imagination. So if you want to say that, the 29 minutes that Josh Hart did play was too much, I'm not gonna disagree with you. Thanks, JD. I am AK Legend. Disgusting. I don't understand how this team has so much talent, yet looks so stagnant, especially on offense. Look, we could go to a lot of stretches of the game. We could go to, like DJ mentioned, the double big lineup to start the fourth quarter. We could go to the defensive side of the ball at the start of the third quarter. That's totally fine in terms of negative stretches. And obviously, the last 2-3 minutes of regulation in game 1 are going to be probably the stretch that defines this season. Sadly, the season for this team. For me, the defining stretch of tonight, or the defining portions of tonight, are probably the beginning of the first and third quarters on offense. Because, yeah, the defensive rating has been bad with the starters. That goes without saying. It's been awful in the series. It hasn't been very good for months. And like Mikal was asked about the starting 5 struggles, and he immediately says maybe it's a defensive thing, and he's talking about all kinds of defense stuff. You watch these 5 basketball players when they have the ball, and if you didn't know any better, you would think that they are just out there biding time until there is a substitution, and that they do not want to be out there with each other on the offensive side of the ball, not on defense. On offense, like, go back and watch some of these possessions. Is there what are they doing that's standing out in a positive way? It's like, and like, yeah, there's some open misses, but like, there's no verve, there's no spark, there's nothing with this starting unit on offense to me. And then again, that's not even getting into the defensive issues, which are probably more significant. But that's what my biggest takeaway is, and it is, the thing that I am most interested to see, how it goes moving forward in the series and obviously into the offseason. Thanks, I am AK Legend. Lillian, what's going on, Lillian? Thank you for, you've been making these generous contributions for so long now. It's really appreciated. Just not good enough tonight. Outplayed, out-hustled. Really tough to watch. There was some out-hustling, there. Couple of, leak outs in transition off of made baskets, which are just inexcusable. You want to talk about, going to the offensive rebounding portion of it. The Knicks, mostly Mitchell Robinson, did really well on the offensive glass. He had 10 offensive rebounds. You gave up 7 offensive rebounds. And you turned that right over with turnovers. You had 13 turnovers. The Pacers only had 10. Now, turnovers, you might not say that's not a hustle stat, but like, I don't know. It's a how locked in are you stat to me. So yeah, it's like you're put it this way, I don't think you out hustled the Pacers tonight. If anything, it was neutral. Yeah, it was tough. Thanks, Liam. Chris Carter, John, please spare us your homilies about Tibbs' tireless devotion to winning when he continues to trot out a lineup that has been suboptimal by every metric for months. Yeah, you're not going to get any homilies from me. He is. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say something I don't believe. I think he does care a lot about winning. Does that mean he's making the correct decisions? No. Does that mean that he's the right coach for this team moving forward? No. But it's just, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because, again, I'm not. This will be the last time I say this, but it just feels like we would be having a slightly different conversation if game 1 went the way it should have gone. But again, we're not. So that's what it is. Thanks, Chris. Rafa, loss is all on Tibbs. Season over. Okay, well, there are some players that play in the game as well. and those players have some limitations. But if you want to put it all on the coach, if that makes you feel better, Rafa, I'm not going to argue with you. John Leary, rough Tibbs game. Still think we need a new coach. Lot of Tibbs hate here tonight, and tough to argue against it. Tough to argue against it. Thanks, John. Rich McLeod, what's going on, Rich? First Eastern Conference Finals in 25 years, and I still hate this team. Isn't that the comment of the night, comment of the season? Yeah, they just make it very hard for you to really embrace them. Again, don't go by me tonight. I'm skewed. And so I wasn't on the hatred side of the ledger tonight, but I totally get where you're coming from, Rich. Kevin Danishevsky, what's going on, Kev? Sorry, but I'll lean on Sam Quinn, who says Tibbs is coaching us out of the series. Can't stick with the starting lineup in the third. Not all on him. Didn't play well on the fourth. You don't have to lean on anyone, Kev. Like, you're entitled to your own opinion. Your opinion's as valid as anyone. Do I think the reason the Knicks lost this basketball game is because, is Tom Thibodeau number one for me? No, number one for me is the 7-foot guy who can't defend at all, really, right now. Or he certainly couldn't defend in this game, and there wasn't enough to make up for it on offense. Tibbs played him 28 minutes. Played Mitchell Robinson more than Karl-Anthony Towns. And the whole broadcast, the whole fourth quarter, the broadcast was talking about, wow, Karl-Anthony Towns still on the bench. To me, I was watching that and be like, all right, I mean, he's doing the thing that he needs to do. He's keeping his all-NBA center on the bench. That's not an easy thing for a coach to do. It's not. Are there other issues with the starting lineup and the whole thing? Again, I get it. So, yeah, he might be, he probably isn't helping. Kev. Sam Garcia, got to make a starting lineup change. Yeah, it seems to be the theme of the night. Thanks, Sam. Deadward 604. What's going on, Deadwards? Worst part of this is since we got this far, nothing will change in the offseason. Cat playing no defense will be here, continuing to cost us, and so will Tibbs being stubborn. See starting lineup. Whatever, I'm done with this season. I wonder how many fans are with you, Deadwards. I wonder how much support there's going to be, how much enthusiasm there's going to be for game 3. I guess we'll see. Curious what the ratings are going to be in New York for that game, especially on a Sunday night on Memorial Day weekend. That should be interesting. We'll find out. As far as whether anything will change in the offseason, I wouldn't be so sure that nothing's going to change. I think that they will take a long, hard look at everything after they get eliminated, whenever that is. And we'll go from there. Thanks, Edwards. Bill Peterfriend, what's going on, Bill? How you doing? Fun ride, frustrating often. This team doesn't have more to give. I'm over it. I'm over it. This year. Maybe that's what you meant. Game 1 broke me, and game 2 proved it to me. Pacers are the better team, more complete, the right arrogance, and the better coach. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that they've been the better team so far. The Knicks have done a lot of things right. The Knicks have done a lot to stick around in these games, and obviously should have won game 1. We didn't imagine that really happened. They were up 9, well under a minute to go in game 1. But the Pacers, I think DJ nailed it. It just looks like they have more solutions right now, which is tough. Thanks, Bill. Nick Marchese, what's going on, Nick? Thanks so much for the contribution, man. Alfie Greco, what's going on, Alfie? We will get swept, losing 5 against a team with nowhere near the talent we have. Pacers are a great team, but it's a coaching issue for me. I'm sorry. Okay, listen, I think it's going to be a lot more comforting for a lot of fans to just, if the series goes the way it seems it's going, to just say, coach lost us the series. If that helps you, it's totally fine. I'm not going to push back on it. Do I think the coach is doing some kind of spectacular job? I don't. I think there are some roster issues here, and some skill issues here. And it's funny when you have those sorts of issues on the roster, it tends to make the coaching look a lot worse, because when you limit the number of solutions a coach has, or the solutions that may be available are like they come with their own caveats and things, it can be tough. But again, that's why they get paid to do this. It's their job to figure it out, and you don't always get opportune or perfect situations. A lot of times you got to deal with when things are not ideal, and you still got to do the job. And right now, his team is down 0-2 at home after 2 home games, so he's not doing the job. Thanks, Alfie. Jason M, what's going on, Jason? Pacers were the better team tonight. Every player and coach made a lot of mistakes. Tibbs just doesn't know what his best lineup is against this team. Yeah, I mean, I think my 2 cents after 5 games, after 2 games, what's the best lineups? Probably Mitch and Deuce for Hart and Towns. Are you going to start that lineup? I don't think so. That's my personal best lineup myself. And we've seen him play it. We've seen him go to it a lot. I mean, I could look up what the numbers were tonight. I don't even actually know what the numbers off the top of my head are for that lineup tonight, but I could look it up probably right now, actually. Brunson. So it was the second most used lineup tonight. And they outscored the Pacers by 12 points. So they that lineup played 10 minutes and 18 seconds. They outscored Pacers 30-18. Starting lineup played 16 minutes and 48 seconds. They got outscored by 13. So there you go. Thanks, Jason. Jason Kirsch, what's going on, Jason? This team has nothing more to give because this coach cripples their talent and potential. Hopefully next season they have a new coach. Wow, I did not. Again, it happens every so often where I just really just don't read the room properly. I mean, I knew Tibbs was going to get some hate tonight. I didn't expect it to be like 95% comments, but shows what I know. Thanks, Jason. Jason Abramson, thanks for the contribution. Gio, what's going on, Gio? Hard not to see this game as an indictment of Tibbs. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at you. Inexcusable first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter, and to come back out of the timeout with Payne and Cat, -9 during that stretch. That aside, I thought we played well enough to win. It's a shame. Yeah, it didn't go well. Payne was terrible. He was, again, a -9 in a game he lost by 5 points. They weren't good at either end of the floor to start the fourth quarter. You could very easily look at it and say that stretch cost them the game. Totally. Thanks, Gio. Jordan Miller, what's going on, Jordan? No timeout before the Brunson 3. Thought Cat was so bad defensively, but what is the best way to defend this team? Switching didn't work down the stretch. I don't know what you're talking about with no timeout before the Brunson 3. Honestly, my brain's a little bit of a fog. What's the best way to defend this team? I have no idea. With different personnel. Not with 2 really weak defenders as part of your core. Thanks, Jordan. Juanon, what's going on, Juanon? We are not dead yet. Adjust and move forward. Do not put it past this team to win 2 in Indy. Have been Jekyll and Hyde all year. If there's any hope, it's that Jekyll just showed up. # fire tips. Again, I'm not putting it past them. I'm not putting anything past them. They have a lot of, for as much as I really do think that there is just some really bad shit, in the locker room between certain players and certain key players, and how that might manifest itself in the summer. I think they have there's also a lot of good stuff in there. Still a Jalen Brunson led team. So we'll see. Thanks, Juanon. JD with another one. Has to be one of Towns' worst games of the season. Everyone at our watch party was laughing at his defense. Absolute parking cone. Yeah, no, he was I mean, did he hold up on a few switches? Yeah, he held up on a few switches. That's not good enough. When you're getting put in the blender and you're always the guy that's like has missed the assignment, and it happens just too often. And this is not probably, I would say this is definitely the worst matchup in the NBA for him. Thanks, JD. Benficamad. I don't know if I got that right. The choke job is this group's legacy, and the media will go on about it for years. Blow it up now. Can't have this choke group again. I mean, maybe that's the thing that gets them broken up. We'll see. Mr. Knicks 101. Not even mad. It's been a great season. Hopefully it doesn't take another 25 years for the Knicks to reach their Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Mr. Knicks. As you could probably tell, I'm not terribly mad or upset at the moment. I'm kind of just a little numb, to be honest with you. Still, again, lingering from game one. I don't think what's happening right now should diminish what this group has accomplished. I don't think it should diminish what the front office has accomplished. I don't think it should make us feel like this is like a hopeless situation or whatever. I think it should make us realize that, like, look, they tried this group, and there is something about this group that is not good enough, or it doesn't work well enough together. And they got to go back to the drawing board and figure out what pieces they need to shift around, or what they need to bring in, or who needs to coach them, or whatever. You know, that's kind of where I'm at. Thanks, Mr. Knicks. Haitian Ferg. Done with Cat. Okay. Get him out of here. That money can be used to bolster the bench instead. OG and Hart complete non-factors tonight. Indy's bench is solid. We don't have one. Changes must be made. Minnesota won the trade. You know, I know Julius didn't have a great game last night, but if you're really keeping it a buck throughout the playoffs, you'd have to say right now, if we're making a referendum right now, yeah, Minnesota absolutely won that trade. And it'll be interesting to see. You say you could use that money to bolster the bench. It's not quite how I think things are going to work, because I think that town salary slot it's their most obvious path to a different star player. Whether they try to push that button or who that star player may be, we'll see. We'll find out soon enough. Thanks, Haitian. Uptown Hoodie, what's going on, Uptown Hoodie? From the most basic perspective, it looks so easy for the Pacers and so difficult for us. Yeah, and that's, again, Uptown, like, on offense, like, where are our easy buckets? They're not there. They're not there. And look, that's part of how this team has been built, but still, it's very obvious. Anyway, all year our guys have looked exhausted. Sometimes the game should look easy and fun. Rarely with this team. I don't know. I think they look like they're having fun sometimes. Not tonight, maybe that much, but they went on a few runs tonight. But has the offense looked? I mean, I don't know. The offense looked kind of fun for game one when they were scoring 1 million points, but yeah, it's not as easy as it feels like it probably should be. Not with the personnel that they have, not with the stretch five. Thanks, Uptown Hoodie. Jordan Miller, what's going on, Jordan? Props to Carlisle. He makes them so hard to defend. Just a brilliant marriage of coach and star player and roster and front office to go out and get all these guys. It is if the Pacers win this series, it is such a wonderful success story for the NBA and for that franchise. I mean, like, masterful job up and down. Really incredible stuff from that organization. Thanks, Jordan. Freeway Hustler 21. What's going on, Freeway? Starting lineup has been bad all year. In the Eastern Conference fucking finals, still no adjustments. How do I defend that? You can't. Well, you can easily. You just said it. Eastern Conference finals. They're in the Eastern Conference finals. They made it to the Eastern Conference finals. So that's why, like, I at least have a little bit of sympathy. I understand the starting lineup numbers have not been good in the playoffs. They were not good against the Pistons. They were not good against the Celtics. I totally understand that. It is begging for a change. It has been begging for a change for some time. If you start moving the bricks around, it opens up other holes. The notion that they're, to me, and obviously I'm in the minority on this, to me, the notion that there is some obvious fix that will solve the specific issues that have been presented in this series. And again, what are we talking about? We're talking about this series because they won the last series and they won the series before that. We're talking about this series. So the notion that there is, like, again, like, are you going to put Karl Anthony Towns on the bench to start the game? I don't know. Maybe that's, I mean, we live in a world where A-Rod once batted 8th. So I don't know. Thanks, Freeway. Hush Zoo, what's going on, Hush? It is what it is. Tibbs with some baffling rotation decisions. Keeping Campaign in for that long in the fourth was insane. Everyone was lost. I mean, I think he was trying to buy time for Brunson down the stretch, but it didn't work out. Didn't work. I actually was a little surprised he went with Payne to start the fourth quarter, but I also, again, you get it. It doesn't, it didn't work, but you get why he's doing it. Any decision that gets made, I see the thinking behind it, including sticking with the starting lineup. I see the thinking behind that. Because in theory, it should just work much better than it's working, other than the Brunson Towns piece, which is just not going to work. And are you going to bench one of those guys? Yeah. I don't know. Thanks, Josh. Alfie Greco. Last one. Thank you so much for everything you guys do. It must feel impossible in situations like this, and it's much appreciated. Look, we're very lucky to be in this position. I don't take this responsibility lightly, and I'm incredibly grateful, to be in a position where, we have an excuse to do this. We get to go back to our families and we say we're contributing something to the kitty, as it were. So very, very lucky to be able to do this, and you're very welcome. Hush Zoo, at least next year, the East is even more wide open. I need the Knicks to really capitalize on. I don't care who we send out. Cat, Josh, doesn't matter. I don't care. Retool around JB. I need a real second option that could do what JB does. Well, I don't know that there's anyone else in the league who does quite what JB does. Look, it's the East being more wide open next year does me, I take precisely zero solace in that. Because at the very least, this Pacers team is still going to be there. They're not going anywhere. Like they'll probably make some kind of a change in the offseason, but guess what? They'll be fine. Pacers will be there. Like some other team's going to jump up. Like I know the Pacers beat the Cavs. Do we really think this Knicks team was beating the Cavs? So I need them to get more solid. I need to see a product that I could watch and could believe is capable of winning the whole damn thing. And even after the Boston series, I never got to a place myself where I'm like, oh, this team could go all the way. I mean, you're one of the last four teams. Obviously, crazy shit happens. You never know, right? But I never, even after Boston, I didn't watch this team and be like, oh, yeah, this team could beat Oklahoma City for sure. I don't see them in that. I haven't seen them in that light all year. And I still don't see them in that light. I think there are going to be adjustments that need to be made to this roster, regardless of whether the coach is back or not. Thanks, Hush. Justin. So the coach who says he always trusts lineup data waits 6+ minutes to make a sub so we don't start the game half slow. Also, Cat's defense has been terrible. Yeah, it flies in the face of everything he says. It flies in the face of everything he says, which tells you that Tibbs says a lot of shit, and you probably shouldn't trust any of it. because he's just going to say what he needs to say to get on to the next question, because he just doesn't have any respect for, he doesn't care. Like, he doesn't care what people write about him or say about him. And he's just going to say the thing that ends the press conference or that gets him to the next question. He is like anybody. He's going to trust something only as far as he likes what he sees, the real answer and the thing that Tibbs, and this is true of Tibbs, are you executing it properly, and is the effort there? And I guarantee you he's watching the starting lineup go out there and give substandard effort and poor execution. Now, they've been giving, at the very least, substandard execution, or they've been delivering substandard execution for months and months and months. So at what point do you say, okay, there is a reason why when you put these 5 players on the floor, they are consistently executing like a group of players who have either never played together or have played together so much that they're sick of each other? What is the reason for that? And it, like, I mean, maybe it doesn't even matter what the reason is, but like, if that's the case, does it matter why it is the way it is? Or is it just like, all right, I guess this is never going to change? Look, he's down 0-2 in the series. We'll see if he changes before game 3. I don't know. Thanks, Justin. Mr. Knicks 101. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a sweep. Maybe. Could be. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be surprised. Justin, coaches who make quick adjustments give Tibbs fits. Well, I mean, I don't really know what quick adjustments you're talking about from Indiana tonight. But I mean, what, sending in the 3rd or 4th string center? I mean, it's a good move. I don't know what you're supposed to do to counter that, but it's a good move. Thanks, Justin. Kevin O. Peterson. John, do you believe the Knicks can come close to replacing OG's non-first or second team defense with pedestrian offense at a fraction of the cost? He's been so disappointing, starting to lose faith in him. It's been a rough OG series. Haven't liked what we've had from OG in this series. He really started to subside. Honestly, the Boston series, I don't think the Boston series was a bad series for him. It was not a great series. It was maybe a good series for him. Look, he's a limited player, and if you're a limited player, you have to nail the things that are your strengths. And he has just not made enough of a defensive impact in the series. Maybe he's tired. I don't know. And if he's tired, that probably goes back to the coach, because he played, more minutes than he ever has before in his life this season. Thanks, Kev. OG team, what's going on, OG team? Why do we willingly switch everything so easily? We don't even try to fight over screens. Yeah, because when you try to fight over screens, this team puts you in the blender and they get an open 3. It's all they do. That's the easiest question of the night. You have to. There are so few options because they just don't miss. None of their guys, you can't give any of their players on the floor except for TJ McConnell an open 3 at any point in time, and they're always cutting, they're always moving, and you have the NBA's perhaps best orchestrator of an offense, maybe this side of Nikola Jokic, running the symphony. It is just impossible. Even if you have a switch everything defense, it's still tough. And the Knicks do not have switch everything personnel. So, yeah, it's a really tough team to defend. Thanks, OG team. You just got to be on your P's and Q's. And they were in the first half. They weren't really in the second half. Stevens Guillaume, what's going on, Stevens? Can we fire a coach mid-series? Can we come back from this? Yeah, they can come back from it. I don't know that I think they will, but they can. Thanks, Stevens. Ben Talbert, what's going on, Ben? How safe do you think Tibbs' job is? I don't know. I could sit here and guess. I have no idea. It depends on what happens the rest of the series. My guess right now, I don't know. I don't even want to guess. If you ask me right now today, do I think Tom Thibodeau is going to be back as the head coach next season? I would probably say yes. I don't say that with a ton of certainty, but I don't know. Thanks, man. Mango Man, what's going on, Mango? Don't envy anyone who's shocked right now. We'll win game 3. Games 4 and 5, I don't know. It's year 1. This is house money if you look at the bigger picture. Thank you, KFS. Well, you're definitely in the minority tonight, Mango Man. Yeah, I could see them winning game 3, and then who the hell knows what happens from there. You know, year 1 being house money has been something I've struggled with all year, because on one hand, I kind of agree with you, and I've said it even in reference to the Towns trade. Not my philosophy, it's the reporting. This has been reported. The Knicks, a big part of their rationale for the Towns trade was they needed a center. They knew they weren't going to have a center this year. And it was either we go overpay for a center we don't really like, or we go get this guy and kind of upend everything and see how it goes. I have to think in making that trade, I have to think that they always felt, or they felt at the moment, that they had an out clause, whether it was we could move Towns to the 4, or we'll be able to get a different center next summer to put next to Towns, or Mitch is going to come back and then we sign it back up to Mitch, and then so on and so forth. Or we could trade Towns for, star player X, whatever it is. So in that respect, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I mean, in that respect, I guess I can't disagree with you if I really do believe that, and I do believe that. But, it doesn't make me feel better right now, because they, at the very least, they should be 1-1 in the series, and they're not. Thanks, Mango. Dom Cappuccini, what's going on, Dom? They fumbled a gift the other night. Well, I don't want to refer to it as a gift. They earned it. They fumbled something that they earned, and they gave the Pacers a gift. So slight nitpicking on the phrasing there, Dom. But I'm with you. They just don't have the legs to keep up. It did them in last year, and they're halfway to doing it again. The Knicks need depth bad. Got to suck it up for now. They absolutely need depth. And to Mango Man's point, that's 100% right. Because the one thing last offseason in this trade deadline did not allow them to do was to really reinforce the roster in the way they needed to. Thank you, Dom. Jason M with another one. Disagree with DJ about the start of the 4th. On McConnell's screens, they put 2 on the ball or dropped and gave up wide open shots. That's the issue. The defense on McConnell was atrocious. And I don't know how much of that, because Campaign had that assignment and it was just bad. I forget, was there a McConnell drive that Deuce gave up one drive that I was like, man, that's a little bit easy. And I forget if it was a McConnell drive or if it was somebody else. But I thought Payne's defense at the start, that was the bigger issue for me. Payne's defense at the start of the 4th, I thought was really bad. And again, I don't know what the game plan was there. It didn't seem like there was a very good game plan. So thanks, Jason. Joe Vogel, what's going on, Joe? I could be devastated that they're wasting a golden opportunity at a title, but has anyone noticed the all-time juggernaut in the West? It's OKC's year. I mentioned that after game 1, and I'm kind of still thinking it in the back of my mind right now. Like, look, we'll see. Minnesota's down 2-0. We're down 2-0. Minnesota, who knows? Maybe they come back and they make a series of it. I mean, they have 2 home games, right? The Knicks don't even have that coming up, although the way they play at home probably doesn't matter. Back to the Tibbs thing. I can't imagine James Dolan has enjoyed losing 5 home games in this postseason. Probably hasn't loved that too much. That might be a factor. Thanks, Joe. D Zilla, what's going on, D? Cat is not a winning player. How do we get him to Milwaukee next year? Double big lineup only existed to enable Towns deficits. or fix Towns' deficits. Julius aggressively frustrating is better than Cat passively frustrating. Karl Anthony Towns is a very frustrating player. Is he not a winning player? Man, I hate generalizations like that, and I try to stay away from them. I think based on what Karl Anthony Towns has shown you through 10 years of his career, among players who are I mean, or let's say in the All-NBA conversation, and he made an All-NBA team today. Congratulations to him for that. Congratulations to Brunson for that. But among like the 25 or 30 whatever players who are in the All-NBA conversation, who let's say receive All-NBA votes, Towns, I think, brings as many questions as any of them as far as like what does this player look like on a roster that wins the title? I think he brings more questions than anyone else in that group of players. I'll leave it at that. Thanks, Dizilla. Kevin Becker, 3 straight years of losing to a less talented basketball team. I mean, I don't, last year exists in its own world because of the injuries. Although you're not wrong, but like again, based on who they had left, were they less talented? I don't know about that. Miami, I don't know, man. Go back and look at that Knicks roster that played Miami in that series. I don't know that I agree with that. And then this year, I think is proof that it's not necessarily about how much talent you have. It's about what holes does your roster have versus how many holes the other roster has. And if you're the roster with more holes, even if you have more talent, unless that, it depends where those talents lie. And I think that's the big conversation that the front office is going to need to address this summer. Thanks, Kev. 27, thanks for the contribution. Matthew Flynn, what's going on, Matthew? Detroit series should have went 7. Lucky call. Boston beat themselves games 1 and 2. Oh, we're now erasing everything the Knicks have accomplished. Okay, I got it. Also, Brown with a torn ligament in his knee, Jason Tatum injury, and Zombie KP. Bunch of frauds. All right. Well, listen, if you wanna toss aside their accomplishments to get here, that's on you. I'm not gonna do that. Sorry. A lot of anger tonight. 27 with another one. The only adjustment at this point is to fire Tibbs. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see if that does the trick. Jonathan Harpula. What's going on, Jonathan? If we could take 2 in shitbag Boston, we could take 2 in bumblefuck Indiana. Let's go Knicks. There we go. It's a positivity. I like it. Matthew Flynn with another one. Only +3 in total points at 14 playoff games. No bueno. Yeah, I mean, they play a lot of tight games. They haven't, have they played well overall in the playoffs? Not particularly. I mean, I thought this, game 4, Boston was a brilliant performance. I thought it was their best performance of the playoffs. I think game 6 against Boston was obviously a very strong performance, but it was against a Boston team that was without Tatum, so it has to be noted. And I really did think that they played a really good basketball game in game 1 until the last 3 minutes. They did a lot of things right, and they did a lot of things that were really impressive. And it doesn't matter because they lost. Thank you, Matthew. And for what it's worth, I don't think they tonight does not rise to or sink to the level of some of the Detroit games or game 3 against Boston, or honestly, even games 1 and 2 against Boston. I thought if you look at how they played tonight through the first 3 quarters versus how they played against Boston in the first 3 quarters of games 1 and 2. I thought tonight was just better. Fourth quarter, didn't have it tonight, though. Thanks, Matthew. Kevin O. Peterson with another one. What's going on, Kev? Did Boston save Tibbs, or does Leon have no choice but to think twice if they get swept versus the effing Indiana of all teams? No opinion here. Just curious. Yeah, I don't have the answer. The only comment that I would make is like, I don't know if your effing Indiana comment is more out of frustration at the fact that it's the Pacers, and like if you're anything like me, you despise the Pacers. I really cannot emphasize enough. If there is any Knicks fan left who like thinks that the Knicks are losing to like a middling team or a team that is not like, that's the thing I would push back when Aaron Nesmith goes 8 of 9 from 3, including however many threes he hit in the last 5 minutes, and like Andrew Nembhard is able to get to his spot whenever he wants and generate an open look whenever he wants and hits every open shot that he takes. And Tyrese Halliburton's All-NBA. And Pascal Siakam has made All-NBA 2 of the last 4 or 5 years. And Miles Turner is a guy who's about to get paid $30 million a year this offseason. I didn't even mention anybody coming off their bench. You know, I'm not going to go through the whole bench. Like, at some point, I think you do actually need to respect the talent. Do they have the best player in the series? No, I don't think so. You know, can Karl Anthony Towns do things on the offensive end that no single player on the Pacers can approximate? Yeah, he can. Like, that's to look at, like, just look at that and be like, oh, the Knicks was the more talented team. I don't know. My 2 cents, I didn't think they were going to win this series on talent. I thought they were going to win this series, but on grit and determination, how they won the first 2 series, and pulling out more fourth quarters than Indiana. But so far, not so good. Thanks, Kevin. Kevin Danishevsky, what's going on? Kat McCall, you are Pelicans. They own Bucks picks. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get that. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting offseason. I'll tell you that much, Kev. Next up, Sean with a W. The game will tell you what to do. Well, tonight it did not. Not as far as the starting lineup is concerned. Thanks, Sean. Jess M, what's going on, Jess? Still sick about Wednesday night. I don't envy your job on nights like this. Listen, I'm privileged to be able to do it. Thank you, though. Thank you for always showing up and being a place we can turn, especially as the national media is just celebrating our demise. Just don't pay attention to any of that stuff. It's not worth your time. It sucks because I do love to listen to basketball podcasts, and I have not been able. But again, it's not like I would have listened to any basketball podcast over the last couple of days. I'm certainly not going to be listening to one over the next couple of days. I would just turn up. There's a lot of great TV out right now. This is Final Reckoning weekend. Very excited that we have our tickets for an IMAX showing later in the weekend. And yeah, that's that. Thanks, Jess. Precocious Salmon, what's going on, Precocious Salmon? I talked to someone recently who knows you, and I'm blanking because I'm old and my brain doesn't work. Have thought all year about Cat and JB as your 2 best players. Makes it so hard to win against the best teams defensively. $200 million, OG, quiet again and couldn't stop Siakam. Love you, Macri and KFS fam. That's very kind of you, Precocious Salmon. Yeah, so this is where we have to get out the microscope, right? If you're going to be a $42 million a year player, you got to excel at the thing that's the vast majority of the where that money is going. It maybe not spoke volumes to me, but I know I noticed, like, out of the gate, the Pacers were like, we're going to target the guy who just finished 11th in all defense voting. That's, yeah. Look, we love OG when he's going well, and he goes well a lot of the time, and when he's on. I mean, look, you don't finish one spot out of second team all defense if you're not a really impactful, really good defender. Has not lived up to the billing. And then the JB Cat point is obviously one that is well taken. And yeah, Mark, we could do it now. Unless you want to put another one up there, it's up to you. All right. Quick break to talk about our friends. You know who it is. Give him a shout out. Shout out to Cornbread. How you doing? If life's been a little crazy lately, like it has been for me, one thing that helps me unwind are Cornbread Hemp's CBD gummies. If you're a first-time listener to the show, you may not know my history with Cornbread. I'll tell you very briefly. They were a sponsor to the show several months ago. They sent me some samples. They said, what kind of CBD gummy would you like? And they gave me some options. I saw there was one for sleeplessness. I started taking it, and ever since then, it has absolutely become a part of my daily routine. It helps me relax. It helps me, reduce my stress. And, to the extent that I ever have any discomfort or, like headaches or anything of that, like, just like muscle aches or whatever, 42-year-old man, it does a really great job of making me feel better with all those things, in part because it only uses the best part of the hemp plant. It only uses the flower. It's the purest, the most potent CBD, and everything is third-party lab tested and USDA organic to make sure you are safe and everything there is pure. Right now, Knicks Film School listeners could save 30% on their first order. Just head to cornbreadhemp.com/KFS and use code KFS at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/KFS and use code KFS at checkout. Thank you. Shout out to Cornbread. JD, what's going on? JD, making the big move. Mikal, 1 year too early, will haunt this franchise for decades. Could have had Giannis or KD. Maybe they still get Giannis or KD. We don't know. Boy, the narrative on Mikal has turned more times than a roller coaster ride this postseason, hasn't it? How many games are we into this thing? 12 games into the postseason now. I still think Mikal Bridges is part of the solution. An important part of the solution, which is different than saying he was worth what they gave up to get him. But I think there is, let me put it this way. If you're asking me to envision a world where Mikal Bridges continues to be a prominent part of this team and the Knicks feel okay about that trade versus a world where Karl Anthony Towns continues to be part of this team and the Knicks, well, that's the problem. I think the Knicks still feel okay about the Cat trade, but I'm not sure if it's because they, view him as a part of the solution. But we'll see. We don't know. Thanks, JD. Gerson Rodriguez, what's going on, Gerson? Tonight, Giannis, Jordan, Kobe, and JB would have lost. We are being outcoached. Accept that. I mean, listen. Okay. Thanks, Gerson. Dom Cappuccini, what's going on, Dom? I don't think there's any shame to lose to Indiana in year one. After all, KFS either predicted Pacers or Knicks in 7. Is there any shame in getting in losing in 4 or 5 to Indiana? I mean, I don't know about shame. Shame is a very subjective term. I think this organization would view losing in 4 or 5 games to Indiana as a failure. I think they would view it as a failure. I think they should view it as a failure. And it's just about who do you want to put that failure on? Do you want to put that, if you're the front office, do you want to put that failure partially on yourselves because of the roster that you assembled with the holes that it has? Do you want to put that failure on the head coach for not fully optimizing the roster? Or do you want to put the failure on 1 or 2 players or however many players that you feel like did not show up in the way that you needed them to show up throughout this series? I don't know. It's up to them, and I'm frankly very, very happy that I don't have to make that decision, although you never know. Maybe they don't have to make that decision. Maybe the rest of the series goes differently. We'll see. Kevin Danishevsky from Robert traveled 27 2,785 miles. Oh, I forgot about that. Shit. From Central Oregon to see the starting lineup stink up the joint again. I'm sorry, Robert. My advice to you, if you would have asked me, would be don't travel 2,785 miles to go pay a lot of money to see this basketball team play in person. TVs have come a long way. Get great picture, great sound. I understand why you did it. I'm sorry that you couldn't see a win. I'd forgotten that you were there tonight. That sucks. And, I'm sorry. Thanks, Kev. Mitchell Berger, I think I have to skip the post game tonight for the first time all season. I'm crushed. I don't blame you, Mitchell. I don't blame you one bit. Thanks for the contribution, though. We appreciate it. Kev with another one. No diss to Mikal Bridges, but he'd be needed to get Giannis. I mean, listen, I don't know what this summer's going to bring. I'm not sitting here counting on Giannis and Antetokounmpo being a Knick next year. I'll just say that. Thanks, Kev. Hush Zoo, it was kind of disturbing how many open shots the Pacers got. That's it's their offense, but yeah. Is Tibbs' job safe if we get swept? All this hope built up for this. Rick is better than Tibbs 10 times. Oh, so you want Rick Brunson to coach the team? Okay. That's one way they could go. I don't know if I have no idea if his job is safe. I have no idea. Thanks, Hush. Kevin O. Peterson, any Milwaukee realtors want to reach out to OG? So let's see. Tonight we've traded Mikal Bridges to New Orleans. We've traded Mikal Bridges to Milwaukee. We've traded OG to Milwaukee. We've traded Cat to Milwaukee. I guess that's almost everyone. Thanks, Kev. Hudge Zoo. Rick would at least give DeLon and Shamet a shot. Okay, so we're thinking DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet are the answers here. Okay. Well, you never know. Not sure those are the droids you're looking for, but who knows? Gerson Rodriguez, outcoached. The only explanation. Gerson, I would push back and say it is not the only explanation. For as much as it may be the most popular explanation on this post-game show, I would push back slightly against that. Thank you, Gerson. Appreciate the contribution. Duran, visual variant. Thank you, Duran, for the very generous contribution. Truly. I love that we got this far, but either Tibbs or Towns got to go. You can't have two bad defenders if they're not killing opponents on offense. Tibbs' lack of offensive creativity combined with two bad defenders is a bad combination. I mean, again, how was the offensive creativity in game one when they had 125 points in regulation and it looked like they were getting everything that they wanted against this Pacer team? I just cited you the numbers before. Jalen Brunson was on the court for 120 or 120. No, he did not play 123 minutes tonight. Was on the court for almost 40 minutes. They had 123 offensive rating in that time. Like, I'm sorry, if you can't win a playoff game in which you're for the 40 minutes of your starting point guard, you get 123 offensive rating. That's a problem. It's a problem with the defense. It's a problem with whatever's happening when the starting point guard is not on the floor. Now, obviously, the defense has all the issues. That's really what we're talking about here. But the notion that there are easy fixes with this defense and with the personnel that they have, and that there is just for 48 minutes, the Pacers know they have a target. That's like you're giving the best offense in the league, as far as I'm concerned, the best offense in the league. You are giving them one target for 48 minutes. And then it's just about how many minutes do you give them a second target. Game one, he gave them a second target for, I think it was 27 minutes. They played together, Towns and Brunson. Tonight, he gave them a second target for 18 minutes. So he cracked 11 minutes off of that total. I'm curious to see how many minutes they play together in game 3. Or what this, maybe there's a scheme adjustment or something. I don't know. Thanks, Duran. Jamie O'Grady, what's going on, Jamie? Thank you for the very generous contribution. I appreciate it, man. Numb. We're all numb. Not because game 2 itself was particularly gut-wrenching. We have seen this game script all season. We are numb because the less than the sum of its parts hits harder when the season feels over. Is this one of 5 super chats? Oh, wow. Okay. Truth is, I'm just going to keep reading. These are all from Jamie O'Grady. Thank you again, Jamie. Truth is, we are 1 man short, maybe 1.5. We all know it. In year 1, with cap roster considerations being what they were when Cat was acquired, we didn't get the fully formed Death Star. And that's okay. Continuing. Yes, JB and Cat offensive pairing is poor. It has been since January. That's a Tibbs problem, in my humble opinion. Whether it's a Tibbs problem or not, he sure as shit hasn't solved it. I'll tell you that, Jamie. And he has to own that. That, to me, is the number one thing by far that he has to own. For me. That's for me. Nobody agrees with me on anything, but that, to me, is my number one with a bullet. You got these 2 ungodly offensive players, and they make each other better, not one iota. How is that possible? And they've gotten worse. They were better early in the year. Anyway. And yes, having both on the floor defensively is a massive issue, but I want to highlight something else. Okay? It's not a coincidence that OG and Bridges have played well in the same game very few times all year. It's inexplicable, but undeniable. We have no depth. Leon has to explore dealing 1 to get depth, meaning 1 of OG or Mikal Bridges. I'll get back to that in a second. Let me read your last super chat. Maybe we win 2 at Indiana. It's not impossible given our Jekyll Hyde act, but also let's appreciate the season as a whole regardless. The goal was the Eastern Conference Finals. We did that. Thank you, JM, KFS, for making the season exponentially better. Jamie, I can't thank you enough, man. I never feel like I do a good enough job when people have a bunch of super chats and again, you're really opening your heart and your wallet here. I feel like I never do a good enough job of showing my appreciation and just saying thank you. So I will just say thank you very much. You wanted to get a lot out there, and that, to me, everything you just said, whether I agree with every single one of the exact fine points, I think you're exactly on the same page. We are on the same page generally. Let me rephrase that. I do think this season needs to be appreciated. I do think the accomplishment of the season, really almost regardless of how this series ends, should not be dismissed or discounted. And frankly, if the season does end in a sweep or a 5-game loss, I think people will look back at the game 1 and they will say, this should have been a 7-game series, and the Knicks just they had the wind taken out of their sails with that game 1. I think that's what people will say. Whether that's accurate or not remains to be seen. We also don't know how the rest of the series is going to end, so we'll see. Regarding OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, I will push back on you, and I'm wait for the end of my point because I'm actually really not pushing back on you. You know when they had some games where they both played well together? When Jalen Brunson was out. And that is not an indictment on Jalen Brunson. It is pointing to the fact that when it was Karl Anthony Towns as the quote-unquote number 1 option, and then Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby in some order, all 3 of those guys, during the stretch when Jalen Brunson is out, all 3 of those guys had games where you watch them and you're like, whoa, this is an all-star level performance. Shit, we were saying about OG Anunoby for a month. This guy's playing at an all-NBA level. Karl Anthony Towns is literally on an all-NBA team. And then we go to Mikal Bridges, think about the Portland game, think about some of the other games he had during that stretch. It is very clear, to me at least, that this team is assembled in such a way where and I've been saying this for months, maybe 1 ball isn't enough. And maybe you got the thing about the Pacers it's a lot easier when your best player doesn't really care if he shoots it. He needs to shoot it sometimes, Tyrese Halliburton. But when your best player can be the most effective player on the floor without taking a shot, and that's what Tyrese Halliburton is, what a gift that is. Because then, and all of their other guys, like Pascal Siakam, yeah, he scored a ton tonight. Does it affect him how many shots he gets? I don't think so. Does it affect Nembhard? Does it affect Nesmith? Does it affect Turner? Does it affect any of these guys? It's tough to say that it does. And after watching this team all year, I just don't know that we could say definitively that everybody in this group is pulling in the same direction and giving everything that they have on every play on both ends of the floor. And might something to do with that be the feeling like I'm not being utilized to the full extent of my abilities, or I am not getting enough opportunities, or any of those sorts of things. I don't really know what you do with that, because I think OG Anunoby has to be part of the solution. I think Mikal Bridges has to be part of this. Not has to be. Will likely be. That's the most likely outcome. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking all this. And if they just change the defensive infrastructure, and those guys don't have to deal with, trying to cover up for Cat's mistake. Here, I'll tell you one thing. Last thing I'll say on this, Jamie. And again, thank you. You know what I think Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby share in common, besides probably wanting a few more shots every game? I bet you they're both pretty freaking frustrated at this point with Karl Anthony Towns' defense. That is not an indictment on Towns. Doesn't mean I want to trade Towns. Doesn't mean I think Karl Anthony Towns is a bad player. It doesn't even mean I think he's the biggest reason why we've been losing the series. Again, if you listen to everybody tonight, clearly the coach is the reason they're losing the series. But like what you saw from OG Anunoby and Karl Anthony Towns on the bench in the late stages of game one, in a game that they were up by 5 with under a minute to go, that is not out of nowhere. That does not happen out of the blue. That is something that builds up over time, a lot of time. And then you go and you listen to Mikal Bridges, and DJ said it with the pointing out the communication thing. Communication, like, oh, I don't know. The guy that is my pick and roll partner, he decides to go rogue and do and employ a coverage here that is not the coverage that we're supposed to be employing on this play. Might that fall under the umbrella of communication? So, I think there's a lot of frustration in there. I mean, I'm sure they're very frustrated right now because they're down 2-0. But I think there was frustration before that. And again, I'm just looking at the evidence. Look at what I see. And then you got two guys in Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson who just, like, those guys just they want to win. And that's all they care about is winning. And then you have whatever other bullshit is going on, and it's probably not a winning mix. What changes do you make? I don't. That's going to depend on a lot of things. And we'll see what, who knows how the rest of this series and season goes. Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate that very much. Mark Azek, what's going on, Mark? My brother and best friend met Jeremy. Oh, that's cool. The coincidence at MSG. Said he was awesome. Tough series so far, but it's been a fun season and it's not over. Enjoy KFS content very much. Well, shout out to Jeremy. Jeremy's the nicest guy in the world. And yeah, thank you for the kind words. Mike Lasowski, what's going on, Mike? This team doesn't play enough defense and doesn't have a coach that gets enough offensively out of the players it has to win a championship. Tibbs has to go. The roster also needs depth. They can't just run it back next year. Well, Mike, I don't think they're going to run it back this year. Thanks for the generous contribution. Look, if the series goes the way it's going, I think you're going to have, it's going to be a very interesting offseason on many fronts. not the least of which is discussion about the head coach. Thanks, Mike. Mekki, Mike. These things always throw me for a loop anytime. And then when it's after a loss like that, man, Mekki, I can't thank you enough for the generosity. You've been doing this, you've been here every freaking post game, it seems like. And for you to step up with this today is I don't even as usual, I don't have the words. I have words for a lot of things. I don't have the words to express my gratitude for this. So thank you, Mekki, so much. Thank you. Flew in from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and was fortunate enough to watch the game with my siblings. It was a good atmosphere. First time seeing Cat in person. Used to have season tickets. I love the Knicks. My kids will be fans too. Our time will come. Chin up. Man, I wish everybody in the world could be more like you, man. And not just because you're incredibly generous. I don't mean it like that. I just mean I wish everybody in the world had your level of positivity and your spirit and your ability to see the bright side. That's so awesome that you got to watch the game with your siblings. It's so awesome that you got to be there tonight. I'm sure it was an incredible atmosphere for the vast majority of the game. It was at least a close game, the whole game, which was cool. I would give anything if I could go back and have that Brunson, that last 3-point attempt go in. I would give anything for that to have gone in for you, man. Really, you, Robert Cross, anyone else who went from long distances to see the team and paid, I'm sure, a lot of money to see the team tonight. As far as your kids being fans, I mean, I hope so. That'd be a really cool thing for you. As much as this could be painful sometimes, our fandom helps tie us to, our mothers, our fathers, our sons, our daughters. And that's just a beautiful thing. I would love to get to Jackson Hole one day. I drove through Wyoming when I drove cross country before law school. I don't think we stopped in Jackson Hole though, but I remember thinking Wyoming is the most beautiful state I've ever been to. And I look forward to going back there. If I ever get to Jackson Hole, I'll have to let you know ahead of time. Thanks, Mekki. Really appreciate that. Mike Lasowski, what's going on, Mike? Can Tyler Kolek really be worse than Campaign? You know what, Mike? I outwardly mocked people all year who wanted to see Tyler Kolek. I'm not doing it tonight. No, sirree. Because you know what? He can't be worse than Campaign was tonight. Campaign sucked. Campaign was pretty good in game. He was okay in game one. Not good. He was okay in game one. He sucked tonight. And with the exception of the game one against the Pistons, it's just been a really bad postseason for Campaign. Thanks, Mike. Freeway Hustler 21. Carlisle plays Tony fucking Bradley to try to counter Mitch. Tibbs won't try Shamet or Wright to counter Cam playing like hot shit. Defend that. You can't. I'm not going to try to, Freeway Hustler. These are the comments that, like, Campaign's been very bad in this series or in this postseason. He also won them a basketball game, but put that aside. He's been very bad in the postseason. You need someone when Brunson sits. Ideally, you want a point guard in there to run the show. Because we've seen them struggle when Deuce tries to run it or McCallum tries to run it. Like, okay, DeLon Wright's a point guard. I get it. He's a good defender. I get it. Shamet has made shots for you. I get it. I'm not saying it's not worth a shot. I'm not saying Tibbs shouldn't get criticism for this. He should. He could get criticism for any number of things because they are down 2-0 and he has theoretically the better team with the higher seed, home court advantage, the whole thing, and they are down 2-0. Everything is fair game. I am not personally going to lose an ounce of sleep because I didn't see Landry Shamet and DeLon Wright play in this basketball game. And I think if that's where you're going to try to get on the coach, you want to get on the coach for the starting lineup, you want to get on the coach for sticking with who he stuck with to start the fourth quarter. You want to get on him about the Cat Brunson stuff. You want to get on him generally about the offense. Like all that's like that's all big picture stuff that should be part of the conversation about moving forward. Is this the best coach for the team, and why, if there are locker room issues, why hasn't he been able to solve those locker room issues, so on and so forth. All those things. You want to get on all that, that's fine. When we're grabbing for straws in the form of Landry Shamet and DeLon Wright, man, come on. I just I can't get there with you. I can't get there with you. Thanks, Freeway. Joe Vogel, what's going on, Joe? We can criticize every possession, but the fact is both games came down to a final shot attempt in regulation. The Pacers got a bounce, and we didn't. Joe, smartest comment of the night. Thanks. Their bounce went in, our bounce didn't. Kevin O. Peterson with another one. Only thing they could do to make the starting five worse is getting KD. Old man KD getting punked on a nightly basis would make me stop watching. Please, no. No. I think what team are you bringing Kevin Durant to is an interesting question. I am certainly not going to sit here right now and say I am out on the idea of getting KD before he even arrives. I would want to see what the team is that resulted from getting him and who they had to give up. But I understand your hesitation. Kevin Durant is old. He hasn't exactly been part of a lot of success in recent years. So I get it. Thanks, Kev. John B. What's going on, John? If coaches were switched, would New York be up 2-0? No. I don't. I think it would be 0-2. But that's me. Again, everybody, 90 whatever % of the people watching this probably disagree with me, but you asked me the question, so I'm just going to give you the answer. Thanks, John. Anthony Sixto, this team discovers all these things that led us to incredible highs and then immediately gets Men in Black zapped and they start from zero. That said, if there's a team that could win 2 on the road, it's them. I don't know, Anthony. I saw a team that reached new heights offensively for the vast majority of game one, and then when they really needed to pull together defensively, they had what I would define as their most inspiring defensive stretch of the season at the most important part of the season when they went on a 14-0 run, and the Pacers did not score a point for whatever it was, a 5-minute stretch of the fourth quarter of game one. That's what I saw. It's easy to forget about all of that because of how game one ended. And I know you're being a little facetious, but like even tonight, nobody cares about it because they lost and they're down 0-2. They did a lot of great stuff tonight. They did a lot of stuff tonight that is, to me, evidence of a team that has been growing and learning and getting better and improving. It's just we never pay attention to that stuff on nights that they lose because they lose. So thanks, Anthony. House Flan, what's going on, House? Move Tibbs to the front office, assistant to the traveling secretary. I actually think if he's not the coach, I think he will be moved to the front office. I feel very comfortable saying that right now. Thanks, House. Angel or Angel, Mercedes, we need to play Precious at the ATP. I don't know. Not confident in his play, but we'll support him. We need more size and switchability, especially on Siakam actions. Cat falling after a shot feels like a live ball turnover. Oh, I mean, I think it happened once or twice. He fell once tonight, and it resulted in an open three. Of course, they hit it, which I said as soon as he was on the ground. I'm like, oh, they're going to get an open three. And then there was somebody else that fell or didn't get back, and it resulted in an open three that I think they missed. But yeah, it's always an auto three. Precious, I mean, I don't know that that's the direction that I'm going right now, but it's not crazy. Like Shamet, DeLon Wright, I think that stuff's a little bit far-fetched. Precious is... but then who are you taking off the floor? You can't have Precious and Mitch out there together. Maybe Precious just helps keep Mitch fresh Maybe that's it. It's not crazy. Thanks, Angel. Drew P, down 5 to go. Josh Hart subs in. I knew we lost then. I mean, okay. I think he could have kept Deuce in there. I don't think it would have been crazy to keep Deuce in there. I think he was trying to get a jolt from Hart, doing all the things that Josh Hart typically does. How many times have we seen Josh Hart make winning plays late in games? Didn't happen tonight. So it didn't pay off. The bet didn't pay off, but sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Thanks, Drew. Kento Cato, what's going on, Kento? Trying not to overreact. Well, you're one of the few then, Kento. This team has been resilient, but it's hard to keep believing. One game at a time, and hopefully some changes are coming. Silver lining is Mitch, though. Happy for him. Yeah, very big silver lining tonight was Mitchell Robinson. Happy for that dude. Thank you, Kento. Appreciate the contribution. True P. Mitch is our second best player, just not playoffs. I mean, he's been their second best player in the playoffs pretty clearly. And I would argue that he has more defined the playoffs than even Jalen Brunson up to this point. That's maybe a stretch, but it's close. Thanks, Drew. Mitch is our second best player, not just the playoffs. I can't read. Sorry. That's probably a bit much for me, but at the same time, like, why should I sit here and say that you're wrong? What can I say? If he's been the second best player on the team for a month and a half or close to a month and a half, like, why isn't he their just flat out second best player? I don't know. John, what's going on, John? How you doing? I know the era of the NBA is different now, but you can't let players like McConnell drive it in, getting easy buckets, foul hard, and make them regret going inside. You're saying get easy buckets. Foul hard and make them regret going inside. Cat, -7, 7 rebounds. Starters, -81 in the playoffs. Is that good? I don't think that's good. Yeah, no, it's again, definition of insanity stuff. It's definition of insanity. They don't have the hard foul personality on their team. For better, or it sounds like you're saying for worse. Do I want Cat picking up more fouls? Probably not, all things considered. Then again, I said before the series, I didn't think this was going to be a Cat series. I said before the series, I thought this was going to be a Mitch series because of the defensive concerns and because I didn't think Cat would be able to do enough on offense to make up for the defensive stuff. He did enough on offense in game 1 to make up for the defensive stuff. That's why they should have won the game. He didn't do it tonight, and part of why they lost. Thanks, John. Will Oliver, very demoralizing week. Not much else to say. Yeah, it's been a tough one here in Knicks land. It's been really tough. I mean, I know we're all in the moment right now, and I know it's really hard right now. I hope with a little bit of perspective and time, and it depends on how the series ends. But I hope with some perspective and some time, maybe we can feel a little bit differently. Thanks, Will. Kevin O. Peterson, what's going on, Kev? One thing I'll say is, even if Tibbs is retained, some of the staff will be turned over. Must add more creativity and proven coaches to the bench. Jeff Van Gundy, maybe? I don't know that Jeff Van Gundy has any desire to leave the Clippers. Seems like he's in a pretty good situation over there. I mean, needless to say, I'd love Van Gundy back. I think either... I don't know. I would be surprised if they retained Tibbs and was like, but you have to bring in these additional people. I would be mildly surprised if that's the way they wanted to go. Thanks, Kev. Matt Tomo, what's going on, Matt? I hope everything's okay with the family, John. Yeah, I'll speak to that later. Much love to you and the whole KFS team for keeping me connected to New York from out here in Chicago. Knicks in 7. Thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate that. Duran visual variant. My saving grace is that I bet against the Knicks in every big game. Good for you. That's at least you're getting something out of this. I either make money or pay for a win. Hashtag betting and not sweating. You know, if I shout out to Fanatics, you know, I don't think I'm ever going to be a huge gambler. If I ever did really lean into it, that's exactly how I would bet. I think I would make any time's an important game where I would be like, hey, if I lost $50 tonight, but the Knicks won, I'd still be thrilled. That's what I'd do. That's exactly what I'd do. Thanks, Teron. Emil B. What's going on, Emil? What did you mean by it's hard to win games sticking with 5 guys who don't like each other as basketball players? Alluding to potential locker room beef or something else deeper? No, that's exactly what I'm alluding to. You know, I mean, again, I'm not just go. It was on TV in game 1. OG and Cat. You know, it's in sound bites. It's in quotes. Mikal Bridges talking about communication all year long. It's on podcasts. Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart openly, I don't want to say mocking, but like not so gently pointing out the fact that like on the play where Karl Anthony Towns flexed after whatever he did, whatever basket he made, because he flexed and didn't get back in transition, Jaylen Brown got an and one in game 6 against Boston. This stuff is all there. They had to call a fucking team meeting after game 5 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, in which it, like, again, go read Fred Katz's article. He makes it like very clear in there. Like, that wasn't a hunky-dory team meeting. That was a, y'all got to get your shit together and stop with the bullshit team meeting. And then they went out and they played like it, and they did. Like, the notion that everything is copacetic between these players, like, what else do you need to see or hear? Again, for me, the best evidence is just look at the basketball that is being played at the beginning of the first quarter and the beginning of the third quarter. There's nothing. There's no spark. There's zero. It's not an X's and O's issue. It's just not. I don't know what they do. I don't know what they do. And I don't know who needs to go, or if it's the coach, or if it's a player, or whatever the fuck. I don't know. And I'm happy it's not my mess to deal with. I'll say that. It doesn't sound fun or pleasant. Thanks, Emil. Hayden with another one. Thank you, Hayden. The Knicks starting lineup is officially the worst, most played lineup of any conference finalist since 2008 at minus 9.5 points per 100 possessions. That sounds about right. To the last point. Yeah. It's not good. Thanks, Hayden. Joseph J. Carlisle better than Tibbs. Innovation for easy offense, gives minutes to the bench to develop depth. Starters kept fresh. New York has talent and untapped depth, just the wrong coach. All right. Well, you might be right. We'll find out, I guess. Jordan Miller, clarifying earlier message. I was pretty surprised that the coach didn't call a timeout with the Knicks down 3 to draw something up, and instead Brunson chucked. I don't think they wanted the Pacers to get into their defense. I think he trusted Brunson in that situation to get a good shot, and probably wanted to save the timeout. Now, it's late in the game. You saying maybe you don't need the timeout? It's fair. It's a fair criticism. It's a fair criticism, Jordan. It's a fair criticism. That wasn't a great shot. It wasn't a great shot. Would any of us have been shocked if we went in? No. Was it a great shot? It was not a great shot. It's a very fair criticism, Jordan. Chris Saletti, don't bail yet. We waited 25 years. Win on Sunday. Chris, I'll tell you right now, if they win on Sunday, I'm going to be back in on the series. For as much as I was out going into today, it's very strange. It doesn't make any sense. I was out going into today, and I expected them to win. If they win on Sunday, I'll be back in emotionally. Obviously, I'm not giving up on anything, but yeah. Thanks, Chris. David Sancherico. What's going on, David? Was at the game on Wednesday, and I'm with you, Macri. I couldn't get there emotionally today. Was just sapped and did not anticipate success tonight. I guess the difference, David, and shame on me. You know, what is it? Fool me once, fool me. I don't know how many fucking times I've been fooled with this team. I thought they'd win tonight. I thought that, like, and I didn't have great logic for why I thought they'd win. I just was like, no, they'll find a way to win this game tonight. And for a while, it looked like they were going to do that, and then they didn't. So, yeah. Thanks, David. Appreciate that. Jeff, what's going on, Jeff? How are you, my friend? Shout out to Casual Fridays. If the same five starts Sunday, what are we doing here? In a game of slim margins, they give every team an immediate advantage. So you want to start Deuce in place of Josh Hart. You know, it's been the obvious button to push all year. Maybe it's the button they push tonight or tomorrow or whatever it is. Well, yeah, I guess it is tomorrow because it's 1:08 a.m. Try and think if I think he'll actually do it. I'm like 50-50 that he'll do it. I'm not sure it'd be Deuce either. I think it might be, I don't know. I could see it being Mitch. I do think Josh would go to the bench, though. I don't think any other player would go to the bench. It would be Josh. Thanks, Jeff. Parrish Duggar, what's going on, Parrish? Simple. We have an improv offense with one guy who can create and get his own shot. Cat, Bridges, OG are good, but need offensive sets to be efficient. We also lack passing talent to create good shots. Create guys good shots. Parrish, I don't disagree with a word of that. Not one word. Truly, I don't disagree with one word of that. OG and Cat in particular, I think, are two players who desperately need more structure in the offensive side of the ball. Thanks. Appreciate the generous contribution there. Haitian with another one. Thank you so much, Haitian. Hope you're doing well at home with the little one, by the way. Was marriage between coach and front office better last year? Is there still room for change while keeping the coach and Leon in place, or do heads have to roll? Man, you know, obviously a lot of people are going to want to see the coach go if the series goes the way it's going. This is never. I think it's obvious to say that this has never been a roster this year that you would say is tailor-made for this head coach. Last year's roster was pretty closely tailor-made to the head coach. And we saw what they did when they were healthy. What you're asking is it going to be Tibbs to go and then you count on another coach solving the issues that present itself with this roster? Or do you think that your odds of success, what do you think your odds are better at? Changing out the coach and keeping the roster mostly as is? Changing a major piece of the roster, keeping the coach as is? Or I guess option 3, changing the coach and changing a significant part of the roster, which I wouldn't rule that out. So maybe it's choice C. Haitian, I don't know. Thanks. Emil B, what's going on, Emil? This team doesn't deserve to have their fans climb traffic poles and spend thousands of dollars to see them. Pathetic effort time after time on their home court. You know, I can't co-sign some of the language there. What they've done to their home fans this postseason, I do think that they should be embarrassed. To me, tonight, I did not feel like I watched an embarrassing performance tonight. It did not rise anywhere close to that level. How they ended game 1 was the most embarrassed that the team should have in the history of the franchise. They should have never been more embarrassed than at that moment. They should have been embarrassed for their game 3 performance against Boston. They should have been embarrassed for their game 5 performance against Detroit. They should have been embarrassed for their game 2 performance against Detroit. Those were all embarrassing performances. Thanks, Emil. Sue Hussein, what's going on, Sue? As a diehard Knicks fan living in Quincy, Massachusetts, all these Boston fans are Pacers fans. I'm sure they are. The Knicks need to wake up. I haven't given up, but it sure was a fun ride. Yeah, no, don't give up yet. Keep rooting for them. You know, you're going to catch a lot of shit, obviously. You know, I was at the airport earlier today, and I saw a bunch of people with Knick hats on. And, you know, I just like, this more speaks to the last comment. And I just like, I felt so bad that this city had really started to rally around this team. And, you know, now it's like, it's just, you got absolute shit return on your investment now all of a sudden. And that sucks, man. That really sucks. And for them, and that's why, like, I think tonight, you know, would they have won the series if they won tonight? But like, yeah, you didn't find the way to win tonight. It does kind of feel like a slap in the face. So, yep. Thanks. So, Sue Hu San. Sorry, I think I got that wrong. Thank you for the generous contribution. Hush, what's going on, Hush? When I'm watching Tony effing Bradley give Pacers decent minutes and Ben Shepherd hit 2 massive threes, why is Shamet Delon met with sarcasm? Because they're not as good well, the Tony Bradley thing was out of desperation. That's why it's met with sarcasm. That was out of desperation because Mitchell Robinson was owning them and he had no button left to push. Ben Shepherd is a decent rotation player in the NBA. DeLon Wright is someone that, like, if the Knicks had waived him, nobody would have picked him up. Landry Shamet was literally available for any team who wanted to sign him after his injury. Nobody picked him up. These are the definition of scrap heap players. So when you're sitting here and you're begging and you're apoplectic over the fact that guys who are like not NBA rotation players, that like the fact that they were not inserted is like some kind of crime against humanity. Again, hindsight is always 2020. It's always 2020. Campaign had a bad game today. He's had a really bad playoffs. He wasn't terrible in game one. I think he actually hit some threes in game one. They were kind of notable. Kind of would have contributed to the win had they won. You know, tonight he was bad. I just like these are end of the bench like they're not rotation players. They're just not. You know, I don't know what else to tell you. And more specific to the fact to the Tony Bradley point, they needed a body to like neutralize Mitchell Robinson. That was a specific reason Tony Bradley was in the game. What specific reason do you want DeLon Wright or Landry Shamet in the game? Like, what specific problem are those guys going to solve that ailed the Knicks tonight? Just that they would have been better than Campaign because Campaign was bad? Yeah, sure. Okay, that's fair. Maybe they wouldn't have been as bad. I think Campaign has been your guy the entire season. Is it time to go away from him? Maybe. I just, with your other options, it's just not something I'm getting broken up about. That's me, Hush. You know, obviously you feel differently, and that's fine. Matthew Flynn, starting lineup -50 in the playoffs and -29 this round. It's not good. It's not good. It's very bad. Sam Garcia's dad, what's going on, Ray? How are you? This is 2. This team totally sucked the life out of me. Yeah, man. I think I'm right there with you. I don't know that I'll watch game 3. Come on. You got to watch game 3. You never know what's going to happen. I love JB, and I'm still happy we have him, but the greatest Knick of all time stuff needs to stop. I mean, that was always very premature. Let's just say that. Another one from Ray here. He's not on Patrick's level. Patrick had Jordan in his way. JB losing to Halliburton. Love KFS, the Knicks, not so much right now. Well, thank you for the kind words. I don't view this series as Jalen Brunson is losing to Tyrese Halliburton. I think on balance, Jalen Brunson has been the better of the two players. I think Jalen Brunson contributed to their losing game one with his decision-making down the stretch of that game. I thought his decision-making tonight was much better. I thought he was clearly the better player than Tyrese Halliburton tonight. Then again, Tyrese Halliburton holding up a little bit better on defense for sure. Brunson fighting has held up here and there, not holding up as well as Tyrese. And Tyrese is supposed to be a bad defender. So I don't know. Maybe I have to take that back. Maybe I have to take that back and reconsider. Has Brunson really been better than Halliburton in this series? Maybe not. Despite all the scoring, but like, it's just such a tough conversation because when you have a team that is led by this player in Jalen Brunson, you are giving teams this target, this opportunity when they have the ball. I know I keep saying the same thing. I don't mean to repeat myself, but it's all about, all right, are you exacerbating that weakness or are you trying to neutralize that weakness? And that brings us back to the cat trade. And they bet on there being, we know what they bet on. And suffice it to say, the bet has not paid off well enough. Thanks, Ray. Hush with another one. Not saying they're the answers, but we just watched Campaign be an absolute dud on both sides of the ball. If we want to keep up with them, put in more bodies. I don't know. I don't feel like they lost tonight because they were tired, other than Mitchell Robinson. And Mitchell Robinson, you don't have another Mitchell Robinson on the bench. You need to play Mitchell Robinson a bunch of minutes. He was the only guy who I thought was impacted by potential fatigue. Again, to me, the Campaign conversation is different than like the Josh Hart conversation. The Josh Hart conversation is very easy. It's like, why are you going to put in Deuce McBride for Josh Hart? Because Josh Hart has very clear limitations and Deuce McBride solves those limitations. It's a very clear thing. On top of that, Josh Hart didn't play particularly well tonight. Campaign played a poor game. But again, like he's the best other point guard option other than maybe Tyler Kolek, I guess. To try to run the show. And he's had great chemistry with Karl-Anthony Towns all year. He's run really good backup units all year. Hasn't been great in the playoffs. Wasn't great tonight. When do you let go? When do you pull the ripcord? I don't know. Thanks, Hush. Kabian Andor. What's going on, Kabian? Too inconsistent. Time to change the coach or the roster. Feels like one of them is changing this summer, Kabian. I can't tell you which one right now. I think we need to see a little bit more basketball. Christian Mitchell, what's going on, Christian? Thank you for the contribution. Man, I really don't like a lot of people tonight. Keep your head up, John. This is not over yet. I trust the front office will make the right coaching roster adjustments. Giannis over Cat don't touch anything else. Or Giannis for Cat, don't touch anything else. Listen, people, I am the worst, quite literally the worst person at this, which is what I'm about to say, which is you got to try to be forgiving of people after tough losses. Again, nobody has followed that advice less than me. I'm trying as I get older to be better at that and be more sympathetic and just be more open-minded. And that like, hey, I may think something doesn't mean it's right. And if I may think a particular opinion is a little bit out of line, doesn't mean it's wrong. So, it's, when you make these emotional attachments to something and then you just get the rug ripped out from under you, it's, I totally get it. So yeah, thanks, Christian. Appreciate that contribution. Joseph J, what's going on, Joseph? Regret the Cat trade. Overpaying a defensive center who communicates on defense was more valuable. Brunson plays better. OG Bridges more engaged on defense. I miss Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. I think they looked into that. I think you heard the Walker Kessler rumors. I don't think the Jazz had any intention of trading Walker Kessler last summer. I think that's the tree they barked up. I think they kicked the tires. I mean, we read reports they kicked the tires on Clint Capella. We read reports they kicked the tires on Isaiah Stewart. My assumption is that the price tags for those players and what it would have required to give up. Because think about it. If you think about the roster, who are you giving up? You giving up Julius? Well, you don't want to give up Julius, right? Are you giving up, Mitchell Robinson? Well, he's the best part of your team right now, right? Other than Jalen Brunson. Where are you getting the salary, to trade? You want to trade DiVincenzo? It's tough options, which is why they were looking at Kessler, because Kessler, you didn't have to give up salary. You could have done a sign and trade with a minimum guy. That's why they were after him. That was their first attempt to solve this problem. And then when that attempt became untenable, now, could you tell me that they couldn't get Kessler because of the Bridges trade? Maybe. And could you then tell me maybe they should have thought twice about making the Bridges trade? Maybe. We'll see. Or I guess we won't see. I guess we'll see how it works out for them. Thanks, Joseph. Varun Jane, what's going on, Varun? How are you? Sorry, Fred, I don't know if you're still listening. I just saw your text. Don't want to talk offseason too much, but if we're talking about an issue of depth, we need two of Dadier, Kolek, McCullough, and Huck to hit. It'll help. Yeah, I think a couple of those guys need to hit. I think it would make things a lot better, and that will be very helpful. Thanks, Varun. Hush with another one. Not about losing sleep over insert player. It's about losing sleep at the fact that our coach doesn't try something new. Listen, all right. We just saw first and third quarter with our lineup sleepwalking. Just try something. The just try something strategy, I'm not sure is a tenable coaching strategy. That said, your point about the starting lineup, as has been made by many people tonight, if I was going to sit here and be like, what you're crazy for suggesting that they should, no, like I could sit here and I could explain away the decision to stick with this starting lineup 10 ways from Sunday, 10 ways from today. Well, no, it's Saturday. Sorry. 10 ways from tomorrow. None of it makes a difference. Doesn't make a difference what rationale I come up with. It literally doesn't make a difference what rationale I come up with, because the evidence is so overwhelming at this point that the only explanation left is that the coach has faith that things are just going to somehow turn around. And he's now down 0-2 in the Eastern Conference Finals. This loss can very easily be put on the fact that the starting lineup was bad tonight. And if you want to say that the game one loss is the result of him putting the starting lineup back on the floor to end that game, you can make that argument too. So again, it doesn't matter what I say, and while I am not going to sit here and be like, just do it for shits and giggles. No, but I don't need to say that. You don't need to say that. Hush. There's a very clear issue, and it is not being solved in the way it needs to be solved. That's it. Kevin Danishevsky with another one. Can you break down locker room dynamics? No, I can't, because I don't have that information. I'm just going by what I see and what I read. Who doesn't like who? I have no idea. I'm a bit confused and seemed like all really liked each other early on. Kat seemed happy. Yeah, my observations are also the same. I think early on, they did seem to like each other. I don't know that it's personal. I don't know that these guys dislike each other personally. But that's why I said, as basketball players, I think there are some real frustrations on the court, and it just seems to be, again, very obvious to me watching them play. Just seems to be obvious to me watching them play. Thanks, Kev. CC Kirby, what's going on, CC? Haitian Ferg is done with the team, and Macri is agreeing with Parrish. Maybe I'm in the twilight zone. In the real universe, the Knicks are up 2-0. We could only hope to all be in that same place. Thanks, CC. Richard Bailey, what's going on? John, like you, I got family shit going on, and could have used the lift. It's cathartic coming in here and listening to you, though. You've done a great job in a very tough circumstance. Thank you for that. Thanks, Richard. I hope whatever's going on with your family is not too bad. And I'm sorry to hear that. And I appreciate you chiming in and feeling like I'm helping you out in this instance. Issa Ortiz, honestly, doesn't feel as bad if another team like the Celtics were 2-0 on us. This series is very doable. Honestly, it feels like 1-1, even though it's 2-0. I mean, you just said a mouthful there, Issa. It should be 1-1. You know, it should be 1-1, and it should be. I expected it to, honestly. I expected it to be 1-1 after 2. I expected it to be 2-2 after 4. I thought it was going to be an even series. And the things about playoff series and why I lied. I said before I wasn't going to say this again, but I'm going to say it one more time. Why I kept saying how differently this would feel if they had just won game 1 is because think about how we felt. Like all this, I mean, it's to an extreme tonight. But there were a whole bunch of, fire the coach and like, trade this guy, trade that guy. This can't work. This is over. This thing is broken. Like, go back. Actually, don't go back. Do something better with your time. But like, if you were to go back and re-listen to the the Detroit game 2 post game, and the Detroit game 5 post game, and the Boston game 3 post game, and the Boston game 5 post game, if you go back and listen to any of those post games, to say nothing of like any number of games down the stretch of the regular season, you would hear a lot of this sort of stuff. And then what did they do each of those times? They came back and they came out, and pretty much every time, with the maybe slight exception of game 6 against Detroit, played like their best game of the season. And it was like, oh my God, wow, it's amazing what happens and how all these problems need to go away when you actually hit the play better button, And there were some adjustments in those games, but it wasn't about adjustments. It was about going out and playing the type of basketball you're capable of playing. So, but we don't get to sit in that situation right now because it's not 1-1. It's 0-2. And that sucks. Thanks, Issa. Hayden Freed, result, Eastern Conference Finals. Process, trash. Negative net rating through 14. All right. I think this is the last super chat. Mark, double check, make sure that's the last one. All right. I gotta say something real quick before I get out of here. And Mark's been incredibly kind to stay on producing the show. I'm just gonna ask if everybody could kindly not send in any more super chats. I know that's a strange thing for me to say. You will understand why I am saying that in a minute. But just like, please don't send in any more super chats, because I'm gonna say this and then I want to get out of here. So the reason that I'm in Florida today, I'm staying at my mom's house, is came down this morning, flew down with the intention of seeing my dad, who was placed in hospice care yesterday. And for anybody who's been following me for a while and reading me for a while, you might remember I wrote an article years back in which I talked about someone I referred to as my dad and how he had passed away 20 years ago. That was actually my stepfather, Tom. I was the luckiest kid in the world in that I essentially grew up with 2 dads. My Tom, my stepfather, who my mother married and was with from a very young age, and then my biological father, Pat. Tom, unfortunately, left us. He passed away in 2002. And, I had a great relationship with him, and very nice relationship with my biological father, Pat. He's been in Florida for the last 15, 20 years, somewhere about there. We had kind of grown apart a little bit. I don't know that he would have agreed with that statement, but I do, because, shit that happens, you're in different places and you have different resentments and things over stuff that happened growing up and all the bullshit that we as human beings kind of produce. And the last few months he's had cancer, basically for the last 7 years, and he's been fighting it and this and that. And the last few months has been nice because one of the issues I always had with him is that I always felt like I don't know, like he wasn't proud of me or something. In any case, the last few months he had gone out of his way to say some of the kindest things, written emails, text messages, and just talking about how he was really proud of what I was doing here at Knicks Film School, and even sent me an email like 2 weeks ago. He's like, and he was not in a great spot with the chemo, which they took him off of a couple weeks ago. And, he said, keep writing your newsletters. You have no idea what it does for me every day. And anyway, I flew down this morning with the intention of seeing him because it was pretty clear that it was going to happen soon. And unfortunately, he passed away while I was on the plane, and I didn't get here in time. And I don't really know why I'm saying this to anybody. I wasn't sure that I was going to say something, but I know how these things work, and people would probably wonder and, reach out and be like, is everything okay? And I just figured I'd get it out in the open. So they get to see him, his body before they took him away. So that was nice. And I just wanted to say thank you to him, which is something that I never said enough when he was alive. And I don't know if he could hear me wherever he is. But he's the reason I'm a Knicks fan. I am him in his image, in every way, shape, or form, and for better and worse. It's kind of hot-headed at times. A very emotional guy, thick-headed beyond belief. Go find someone who's both of their parents are from fucking Calabria. You'll find a thick-headed individual. And I don't know. I don't think I ever figured I would have a platform like this. And while I have it, if I could use it to honor him and say thank you to him and say, what can I say? Pat, you lived a good life. You always, lit up a room. You were genuine. And you didn't have time for bullshit. And I appreciate that about you. So I'm going to just end by dedicating this live stream and, really everything I am and been able to do here at KFS to Pat Macri. May he rest in peace. That's it. I'll see everybody on the post game on Sunday night. Peace out.